Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Friday, July 11th. I know I'm late. I'm sorry, but I'm here. We're live. And the past 24 hours have been kind of crazy. In fact, I'm probably late because I was up a little too late last night because I was staring at the same thing that you guys were probably staring at. Bitcoin. There she is. I mean, dude, like, this is kind of crazy, bro. This is kind of freaking crazy, but it is happening in front of us. We actually hit 118.9 last night. Very close to 119. We were $75 away from 119. And right now we're at 117.7. I mean, the past 24 hours have been pretty crazy. We've got a lot of news updates to talk about, particularly around tariffs and what Mr. Donnie T has been saying. He's kind of pissed off on a lot of different things that are going on in the macro economy, which is kind of the reason why I think we have a relatively red pre-market. Tesla's down, Nvidia's down, Palantir's down, Hoodie should be over 100, but Hoodie is down 1%. SoFi's down, Google's down, Grab's down, Reddit's down, the S&P 500's down. I mean, you got Bitcoin, which is the most risk-on asset in the entire market, not even just for equities, but in the entire market for assets. And everything else is down. Now, today is a Friday, and people could be selling because in general, on Fridays, you tend to get a little bit of a sell-off. People don't want to hold through the weekends. But there are some news updates that we've got going on that is potentially creating some of this pain. Regardless, it's been a good week. Even though the week's been kind of flat across the board, we are holding the momentum we've held for the past 2 weeks, which is, I think, all we can ask for as investors. Yesterday was a great day for a lot of different names that went up. Nvidia closed at $4 trillion for the first time ever, just under $4 trillion right now. Robinhood got a $98 close. I mean, it was a great day across the board. Bitcoin, kind of the story of the day. But some of that momentum kind of leveling out as we get into the last day of the week. This was me yesterday on the market close as we were watching Bitcoin in front of us do its thing. It was quite a moment to see, and this was only going from 114 to 115. We had another 4,000 to go after that, but this was yesterday on the market close, seeing what was happening in real time. Wow, 114, folks. There she goes. All-time highs, 114 on Bitcoin. Robin will be moving up. Oh, wow, 114.5. Wow, she's moving. 114.7, 114.8. Holy, 114.9. Are you about to do 115? 115. Whoa, baby. Whoa, baby. 115. Wow, what whale just stepped in and moved Bitcoin up $1,000? Holy guacamole, 115. Dude, you guys saw that in front of me, right? We literally all saw that. We literally all saw 114.05 or 025. And then it just went up and up and up and up. And we hit every other $100 milestone. And then 115. It was pretty fun. Dude. Wow, 114. It was pretty fun. It was pretty freaking fun. And it happened out of nowhere, bro. We were talking about like something random, and then it's just like, oh, Bitcoin. Okay, 113 to 114. That's nice because 113 was actually the all-time. 112 was all-time highs. 112.5 was all-time highs. And I was having lunch with Adam, who will be on the show next week on Thursday. And so I was out with lunch. I was out getting lunch with him yesterday. Right. And that's when we saw Bitcoin getting to all-time highs. And then it went to 113 while we were getting lunch. And we're like, okay, cool. And then a couple hours later, nothing happened. Then it gets to 114 at around 5 p.m. We're like, all right, cool. 114. And then at 115 and then 116 and then 117. And then last night after the market closed, like 5 hours after the market closed, 118 and then very, very close to 119. So why is this happening? Let's start off with this. Why exactly is this happening? The main reason it seems to be, and I don't have a sort of argument yet on what whale was buying crypto, but there next week is supposedly crypto week. There's a lot of crypto legislation that is rumored to be coming out. There's some conferences for crypto. And number two is there was $415 million, almost $500 million of shorts that got liquidated yesterday. Now, people are saying the liquidation is what caused the run, but it's kind of like a chicken and the egg type of problem, right? Because there had to be some type of catalyst to get the shorts to feel that they needed to cover, which would cause the liquidation. And so even if there wasn't this massive whale buying, there was some level of buying that then triggered the liquidation. Maybe that level was only getting to 114, right? But at 114 or 114.5, 114.8, you had the liquidation happen, which caused all the covering, which then caused even more pressure, just like when a stock is a short squeeze. And then you had more people buying, and then it normalized some of these levels. It didn't go anywhere near 113 last night, and maybe it gets there again, but kind of stayed in that 114, 115 range. And then last night got up to 117, 118 as well. So yes, Bitcoin futures are definitely part of the reason this happened. Yes, obviously the M2 supply is going up, but the M2 supply going up doesn't mean you get a $5,000 God candle, right? M2 supply and liquidity is a general argument for why Bitcoin has the ability, the freedom to go higher over the long term. But that M2 supply creating a $5,000 candle, which ended up being an $8,000 candle over the course of the day, that to me feels like either there were some people stepping in with their wallets, or there were shorts getting liquidated, or both happening at the same time. And maybe it's anticipation of some catalyst that's coming up in the future. I mean, dude, 120 is on the horizon. And a lot of people have been saying 120 is kind of, Jason, friend of the channel on the technicals, said back at 80, 120 is kind of the next target after 80. And so it would be very, very nice to see if we can get to those levels. And it's also kind of interesting because the big, beautiful bill is one of the major catalysts from a philosophical perspective, right? We are adding so many trillions to the debt, or so to the deficit, and so many trillions to our national debt, that one would think, okay, the national debt in and of itself is a catalyst to buy something that's not going to be inflated or debased, like the US dollar. MicroStrategy right here, 433, that's up 2.84%. And that would be something like Bitcoin, which is why we are also getting some of this momentum. Misty, by the way, this one doing great. The covered call premiums are getting very juicy, and that's what Misty thrives on. It's kind of funny. Kris posted this yesterday. This is a fun little pyramid scheme, to be honest, because this is kind of how it plays out. The open interest on MicroStrategy is sky high. I'm seeing a lot of people talk about Misty that use synthetic positions via options to milk the volatility. As more people pile into Misty, as of yesterday, it has 5.5 billion under management. 2 months ago, that was 4.1 billion. So it's another $1.5 billion in AUM. More option volumes come across the chain because Misty basically uses all that money in their AUM to buy more options and sell more options. And as Bitcoin rises, so does MSTR, aka its premium to NAV. And now all those options outstanding go in the money, forcing market makers to buy more MicroStrategy shares. And as MicroStrategy rises, the share price, Saylor buys more Bitcoin and thus raises the price of Bitcoin. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. It's a nice little Ponzi scheme. So that's what we got. That's what we got on Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. And very exciting to kind of see it all play out. Triple V, thank you for the $200 super chat. Thank you for being here. A lot of you guys were asking me if Triple V owns Bitcoin. Honestly, I don't know. I think you can let me know, Triple V, but I think he bought Bitcoin a while ago when it was like in the 70s, 80s. I don't know if he held on to it. I don't know if he still holds it. I don't think he's the biggest fan of crypto. He's more into the stock market. I don't think he has an issue with crypto. It's just he's more of a traditional investor when it comes to stocks. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has some Bitcoin. So thank you, Triple V, for the $200 super chat. Thank you for being here. Robinhood gives us a good transition to Hoodie, given he does own Robinhood, which is a play to an extent on crypto. 97.55. Hoodie would be over 100 with all this crypto momentum. Coinbase, by the way, did touch 400 last night. Coinbase right here is at 393. The reason Robinhood is not over 100 right now is because, and this broke last night, which was, pretty annoying to see, but it was at the same time, literally at the same time when crypto started doing that 114 to 115 at the almost exact same time that this piece of news came out. But what happened is the Attorney General of Florida decided to investigate Robinhood. Or not investigate Robinhood, but launch a probe into Robinhood that could turn into a broader investigation. And the investigation has to do with deceptive practices on how Robinhood is marketing their crypto transparency and how they say they're the best place to buy crypto. And the dude is basically like, Robinhood has long claimed to be the best bargain, but we believe those representations were deceptive. Put the link in the chat. You can read all their claims. Look, I already went on a rant on this last night on the market close. I don't want to go on a rant on this again in the morning. So my thoughts are very simple. This guy has nothing better to do. He is a young attorney general. He's the youngest attorney general ever in Florida. He needs a political win. He needs to go after a corporation that can give him a parking ticket. Robinhood has been very generous in the past at paying these parking tickets because Vlad would rather pay them the money than actually go to court, which I agree with as a shareholder. Just give them whatever they want and move on so we can keep doing business. Robinhood's probably gonna have to settle with this for like 40, 50 million bucks, unless Vlad genuinely is like, these guys are full of shit. And Dan Gallagher, the chief legal officer, maybe decides to say like, hey, you guys, like, no, we're not going to pay this shit. But I think they're going to pay a parking ticket and then they're going to move on. And I think that, as a young attorney general, you need some level of prosecution, right? You need to be able to show you're tough on crime and that you're going to stick up for the little guy and all these little guys that bought the Trump meme coin and, went to zero in Florida. Trump doesn't deserve to be investigated, or the Trump administration or Eric Trump or Don Jr. They don't deserve to be investigated. But Robinhood creating a platform to democratize finance, that's the one we got to go after. That's what I think he's actually doing. And literally, they announced this news. Robinhood was $99.50. Bitcoin was just breaking out from 114.5 to 115, and then this news dropped. And then the headlines, what are they going to do, right? When the terminal gets a lawsuit headline, which is not really a lawsuit, but you get my point. Immediately, they have to sell it off. And I would not be surprised if this sells off when the market opens, because you might have some funds that just don't want to be involved if this thing turns into anything that's much bigger. Now, if people actually sell Robinhood because of a Florida attorney general trying to probe into them, I think that's the dumbest thing ever, and I would very much take advantage of that dip. But if that didn't happen, Robinhood would be over 100. And so it is what it is. It is what it is. But that is kind of the story last night. Amit was pissed. Yeah, dude, I was pissed because it's annoying, right? It is very annoying. As an investor, you have money invested in these companies, right? And you have kind of very large positions. You even $1 down is thousands and thousands of dollars. And when you're finally making some momentum breaking out, you have the biggest catalyst helping you, which is Bitcoin. And then you have some Florida dude who, I don't know, maybe focus on releasing the Epstein files, but instead he's like, no, we need to go over deceptive practices over a company that is the reason most people got into the market in the first place in the younger generations. It's annoying. It's very annoying. So it is what it is. But yeah, I think the Florida AG is trying to get on the board and make a name for himself. Robinhood just has, Dan Gallagher was a former commissioner at the SEC. So I don't think it's going to be an issue for the long term, but in the short term, could cause some volatility. S&P 500 right there, 622.6. NVIDIA, 163. Tesla, 308. Tesla down a little bit right here. SoFi, 20.8. Did get the $21 close, or I think it got, $20.97. Did not get the $21 close, but SoFi looking like it's in a strong position. Grab right here, 492. Google, 176. Amazon, 223. That's up a little bit. Robin again, 97.50. Hims in the pre-market. That stock is at 49.95. UNH is 300. Oscar kind of got a nasty downgrade today, folks. Oscar got downgraded to $10. I didn't read too much into it, but Oscar did get downgraded to $10. And it was Wells Fargo. They said evidence of rising acuity continues to build. Exchange commentary from nearly all public plans in first quarter was concerning, with medical loss ratios, acuity, and non-payment generally higher than expected. I don't understand the healthcare industry that well, but the kind of takeaway I'm getting from this is that their growth is not exactly what the street thought it was going to be. And then the report from Wells Fargo goes deeper into the big, beautiful bill and how that's going to lower growth expectations going into the rest of the year, specifically for MLRs, medical loss ratios. And as a result, Oscar, which was having its kind of 15 minutes of fame, is now, maybe Wells Fargo is stupid and this is just one of those analysts that doesn't get the business. That's also true, but definitely one of those things that's taking a beating on the insurance business. Lemonade as well, also in insurance. That one's down 1.52%. UNH, I don't think is getting hit that much because UNH is already down 45% for the year. But UNH right there at 300. It was at 298 last night. So that's what we got on Oscar. Jeffries downgraded them to 9. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So either all these guys want the insurance companies to go down so they can accumulate, or they genuinely think that this big, beautiful bill is going to have some issues for the insurance companies. This was Pete Hegseth yesterday. A lot of the drone companies like Arrow, Red Cat, etc., are green in the pre-markets. Red Cat right there, wow, 18%. That is pretty damn green. Arrow right here up 9.7% at 24.37. Here's what Pete Hegseth, who's the director of the FBI, had to say.
Put here. We were brought here to rebuild the military, match capabilities to the threats of today. So while our adversaries have produced millions of cheap drones, before us, we were mired in bureaucratic red tape. Not anymore. In June, President Trump issued an executive order unleashing American drone dominance to bolster our drone industry and arm our warfighters, because that's what we're all about. So today, I'm rescinding restrictive policies that stifle production, and this will unleash American manufacturing and the ingenuity of our warfighters by doing three key things. First, we're going to bolster the U.S. drone manufacturing base by producing thousands of American-made products, prioritizing Buy American. We'll arm combat units with a variety of low-cost, American-crafted drones, leveraging our world-leading engineers and AI experts. And third, we're going to train as we expect to fight. Senior officers, well, I'll grab this. This is the memo. Senior officers must overcome bureaucratic risk aversion in budgeting, weaponeering, and training. So here's the memo we're signing today, delivered via drones. Here on the front lawn of the Pentagon, with some of our great warfighters flying them. This is the future. We're in the fight. We're in the fight to win it. I'm never going to back down.
Okay, so outside of the fact that was pretty cringe, drone companies are getting a bid. Drone companies are getting a bid. I mean, you got the director of the FBI putting out a video like that. Yeah, drone companies are going to get a bid. So let's make a drone watch list right here so we can cover them. Give me the tickers for drone companies in the chat. I know we have Arrow. I know we have Red Cat. What are the other ones? There was a bunch of them there we were looking at last night, but we'll put this in the watch list and then we'll keep going. UMAC. Okay, so that's another one. And we'll keep an eye on them. I mean, this could be a bit of a trade for those that want some momentum to kind of latch onto. Again, these could also go to the downside. They're up a lot in the pre-markets. They could get hit, but these are some names that we could be paying attention to. DJI. Well, that's a drone company, but they're not a public company, right? Or maybe there's another name that is the name of the public company. D-Pro, Dragonfly. Okay, we'll get that one. ONDS. This one's been getting a little bit more coverage as well. P Archer to an extent. Yeah, Archer is part of that. Archer, is that up in the pre-markets? Archer is down a little bit. Yeah, DJI is Chinese. That's right. The U.S. actually banned them last year. Or there was drone legislation that specifically targeted them last year. They're not literally banned, but they're banned from the government to be able to use, even if not for consumers. CYBL. Okay, I don't see that one. Katos. Oh, sorry, director of the DoD, not FBI. Yeah. I forgot. He's DoD, not FBI. UVAS. That is another one. So these are the drone companies that I want to be looking at, and we'll just keep them. We'll keep them on. AV. That's the other one. Yeah. Aero Environment. All right, so all of them up right now. AV up 4%, Katos up 3.7%, D-Pro up 1%, UMAC up 12%, Red Cat up 18%. Pouncer actually works with Red Cat, which is a nice one. And then Arrow up 10%. PDYN, that is another one as well. That stock is also up about 5%. So there you go. You got some of the drone companies getting that momentum from Mr. Pete Hegseth. S&P 500 right here, 622.57. All right, let's talk about Canada. We are tariffing Canada, we being the United States, by 35%. I don't really know why, but for whatever reason we are, it's happening. Here's an update on exactly how it's happening and I guess the logic behind a 35% tariff.
Know of yet, Joe. We might learn today, but we don't know exactly what sparked this latest Canada threat. But I'll say there were two big escalations overnight on the trade and tariff front from the president. Canada being the first one, 35% on imports from Canada, which, by the way, the second largest U.S. trading partner and the largest buyer of American goods last year. Now, an administration official did tell me late last night that the exemptions currently in place for USMCA compliant goods likely will remain, as will the lower 10% tariff for energy imports. That would soften this a little bit, but still a significant escalation from the 25% level where it is now to 35% on everything else. I was told that decision is not final. And this does come, to your point, just a few days, I think 2 weeks after the president was first angry about Canada's digital services tax. And then once Prime Minister Mark Carney pulled that back, then things seemed to be back on track. So we don't know what caused this one. The other big tariff threat overnight, though, is that President Trump also told NBC News he's considering raising the universal baseline tariff from the 10% level where it has been since April to 15 or even 20%. So that would mean everything U.S. companies and consumers buy from abroad would cost at a minimum an extra 20% in the form of tariffs. And if I can take just a step back, this week began with the president postponing that major July 9th deadline for the country-specific tariffs to kick in. It looked like a potential softening of his trade stance, or at least a delay. But since then, we've seen these new tariff threats for Canada and Brazil. Neither of them were facing the deadline before. A 50% tariff on copper, a potential 200% tariff on pharmaceuticals, and now a possible doubling of the baseline tariff. So, guys, a vast expansion of the trade war on multiple fronts just in the past few days.
Okay, so Trump put this out last night that he's going to be tariffing Canada. We've had these letters come out over the past couple of days, right? This whole week that we are seeing, or we're going to get more and more tariffs on Sri Lanka and Cambodia and Thailand and all these other companies, or all these other countries, upwards of 25 to 35%. Canada yesterday was at 35, and it was a bit weird because I don't think we're actually going to have tariffs on Canada at 35%. This is also probably why the pre-markets are a little bit red. August 1st is that deadline to see how all this plays out. I think Trump wants to negotiate with them. And, there's obviously concerns around fentanyl and immigration and all these other things. But, like, Canada is one of our biggest allies. I don't think a 35% tariff would be the best for any of us. Obviously, it would be worse for them, I think, more than us, because they sell a lot of stuff to us. We have a deficit with them, and, it would not be the best thing in the world. But the question simply becomes, is this a negotiation tactic? And I think this might be. But we're going to find out by August 1st. I'm looking at the letter right now. Same standard basic letter. Brazil, we had 50%, but he wrote to Mark Carney yesterday that they will get a 35% tariff on Canada. The big thing he says, so the last paragraph is actually more specific. He says, also, I must mention that the flow of fentanyl is hardly the only challenge we have with Canada, which has many tariffs and non-tariff policies and trade barriers, which create unsustainable trade deficits against the United States. Canada charges extraordinary tariffs to our dairy farmers, up to 400%. And that is even assuming our dairy farmers even have access to sell their products to the people of Canada. The trade deficit is a major threat to our economy and indeed our national security. So, yeah. Again, August 1st, I think, is going to be the scary part now for this market. Yes, you can say that Trump's going to taco, but, like, what if he doesn't? What if he doesn't? And what if we do have all these countries with these ridiculous tariff rates? With some of them, it's like Moldova, it's not going to matter if we have tariffs on them. But, like, Thailand, it will. Philippines, it will. So, I don't know. It's going to be one of those things where we got to see how this plays out. There's a Bloomberg article today quoting Besant. They said, Besant said that Trump is very good at understanding how to create leverage during negotiations and objected to the notion of a so-called taco trade, an acronym that stands by the Financial Times columnist as Trump always chickens out. Instead, Besant said Trump's strategy is more akin to FAFO, an acronym popular on social media that stands for F around and find out, according to one person in the room. So, yeah. They're saying it's not taco, it's FAFO, and I guess we're gonna see how FAFO plays out. The big beautiful bill is passed, chance of taco is decreased. Well, that's also a good point. I mean, Trump got what he wanted with the BBB, so now that is a point. He can kind of put out his legislation without the fear of losing political capital to get his major landmark legislation to get passed through Congress, because it got passed on July 4th. Who knows? Maybe that's the little bit of the black swan that the market's not expecting going into going into Q2 or going into the end of Q3. He wants Canada as the 51st state. You could argue he's squeezing them to get the people to push for Canada to be the state and 51 eliminate tariffs altogether. So I don't think Canada would ever agree to be the 51st state. I just think Canada respects their sovereignty too much. I also think it would be very difficult to incorporate all the millions of people in Canada into the United States as the 51st state. I think the political landscape of America would change dramatically. I also think the Canadians want to be themselves and not be Americans. So I don't think it's pressure to squeeze them to be the 51st state. I think it's more so pressure to just get them to come to the table and make a better deal. The 51st state to me has always been rhetoric, even though I think Trump actually believes it's possible. But to me, it's always been, rhetoric that he's using to negotiate. Yeah, Tanner would love to be an American, but you got to remember, guys, Tanner's rich. Okay, you guys got to remember, he tries to downplay. Tanner bought NVIDIA a long time ago. Okay, Tanner's rich. He has money. And every time he has to pay those taxes, he probably just thinks, oh man, if I lived in Florida, if I lived in Vegas, if I lived in Texas, I would save so much money. So Tanner is different than the majority of Canadians. He understands American freedoms and, wealth and capitalism. I just don't think the far majority of Canadians would want to lose their sovereignty. And as I'm joking here, I'm sure Tanner has some Canadian pride that he, would love to keep instead of just mixing it with the Americans. So, I mean, I don't know. I think we'll get a deal. Trump and Mark Carney were literally laughing together at the G7 summit. I don't think they're like enemies. So I think we'll get a deal. Hopefully. But August 1st, we're going to have to see how this ends up playing out. S&P 500 right here, down a little bit, 622.5. NVIDIA, 163. Tesla, 308. Palantir, 141. Reddit, 141. And then Hoodie at 97.40. Let's trade Tanner for Ross Gerber. Is that Carlos? Shout out to Carlos. Carlos, we got to get you back on the channel, man. The OGs, no Carlos. Carlos has been a bit busy. He has 2 kids. He had a son, I think almost 2 years ago. And that son has been growing up pretty quick. So he's been a bit busy. But I think you guys might also know, or you guys might also remember. And if you don't, because you're new to the channel, Carlos is a good friend of myself and Kris. Speaking of people that are rich, Carlos is loaded up a little bit on this asset right here, Bitcoin. And I think his average is like 8,000. He's had Bitcoin for a long time. He's never sold. And so today must be famous. Dude, today's got to be a fun day for you. This is a chart from Fundstrat. This is a chart that shows the Treasury Bitcoin holdings and the ETF Bitcoin holdings. And the Treasury holdings, which are not as much as the ETF holdings, are growing way faster than the ETF holdings for Bitcoin. As you can see right there, this is from Fundstrat. So Tom Lee's argument is, wait a second, these treasuries, which is part of the reason he started an Ethereum treasury that we'll talk about in a second, they're acquiring Bitcoin at a way faster rate than the Bitcoin ETFs. By the way, yesterday, one of the reasons why Bitcoin moved as much as it did, retail. Take a look at the net inflows on the ETFs, 1.17 billion in ETFs, 448 million into IBIT, that's BlackRock's, 324 million into FBTC, that's Fidelity, 266 million into ARKB, 77 million to BitB. You had 1.17 billion. That's the first $1 billion day, not week, single day of inflows that we've seen, I think, in almost 2 months. So that is another reason why I think Bitcoin is getting this much momentum today, and why people like Carlos are waking up to $118,000 Bitcoin. It's cool, dude. It's pretty damn cool. It's the power of conviction, right? Holding on and just believing. And to Carlos's credit, I did not, when Bitcoin was 27,000, I didn't believe in Bitcoin. I thought it was dumb. My orange pilling took until like closer to mid 2024. I legit, for those that were watching the channel, I was watching I think I watched almost 50 hours of Sailor to try to really understand what the hell is this guy talking about. And then I got more appreciation for the thesis. Now, I'm not loaded up on Bitcoin. I picked other plays to kind of get exposure to it, but I have a lot of respect for the thesis. And for people that are holding it, I mean, you deserve the gains. Speaking of people that are holding it, our boy Eric Trump today quote tweeted his post from February 5th and said, "You're welcome." On February 5th, he said, "Feels like a great time to enter Bitcoin." And then someone did a chart on how many times Eric Trump says, "You're welcome." And he said it was a good time to buy back in February. It tanked. And then as it came back to where he said it's a good time to buy, he says, I told you. Gotta love it. You gotta love it. Carlos says, you saw Palantir, I saw Bitcoin. Yeah, that's true. I mean, at $7, Carlos was more on the, Bitcoin train. At Bitcoin 20,000, I was more on the Palantir train, and both of them have worked out pretty well for us. All right, so let's talk about the Ethereum treasury. Sharplink Gaming just bought 10,000 Ethereum. So this, let's talk about this yesterday because this has created a lot of controversy. Sharplink Gaming right here is up 10%. BMNR, unfortunately, yesterday took a nasty hit of 35% after falling 45% yesterday, 160 to 50. Got to the lows at 42 yesterday. Now it's at 50.24, up 9.2%. Tom Lee did do a podcast yesterday explaining kind of why the Bitcoin or the BMNR is not doing as well as Ethereum. Now, remember, he was on CNBC yesterday and he was a bit uneasy. I mean, they asked him specifically about dilution and he really didn't have a good response. I mean, it was not the sort of confident Tom Lee that you usually tend to see. And I think it's because, he had to admit that, like, yeah, there's going to be some shit that the company has to do that's just not as fun for investors to deal with. But he also related it to the fact that MicroStrategy had those same issues, right? Early on, MicroStrategy was one of the companies that people, if you bet on, it took a long time before they could actually get the gains that they deserved. And if you believe in BMNR, that's kind of the same way. So here's what he said yesterday to try to address some of the issues with BMNR.
Why are the treasuries underperforming the underlying asset if they have a higher beta? Great question.
Well, there is going to be day-to-day volatility, so it's really difficult for someone to necessarily take a lot of conclusions from one day to the next. But keep in mind, when MicroStrategy began its Bitcoin strategy, Bitcoin was around 16,000, and now MicroStrategy has had a 25 times total return. Part of it is because of the rise in Bitcoin, and part of it, of course, is their ability to be a treasury company. So I think when someone looks at Ethereum today, which is still below its all-time highs, and I think potentially, as Mark Newton points out, could be 5 to 10,000, which is a 4x from here, it should make sense that the Ethereum treasury stocks should do better than a 4x, because that is just the rise in the asset value of their underlying holdings. But of course, then there would be the ability of these treasury companies to acquire more Ethereum in that process. So I do think as time passes, it makes sense that the treasury stock should outperform Ethereum.
That hasn't happened for MicroStrategy and Bitcoin, even at this later stage.
Year to date, MicroStrategy is up 45% and Bitcoin is up 21%. So even just if I look at the last 6 months, a holder of MicroStrategy earned twice the return by owning MicroStrategy over Bitcoin.
Basically, Tom Lee is saying, hey, you guys can't get mad at me for BMNR if you bought it, because if you got mad at Saylor back in the early days when Bitcoin was 16,000, then you would not have the 25x return. That doesn't mean everyone had a 25x return, but even if you got, a 4x, 5x, whatever, like, you had to trust that Saylor had a vision to stack sats, and then eventually that stacking would allow the alpha, the premium to NAV that they have on their Bitcoin, as Bitcoin got to all-time highs like it is at right now, to result in share price appreciation for MicroStrategy. And that's the exact same thing that Tom Lee is doing on Ethereum. Now, you can either believe in that or not. I think it's a bit aggressive paying 12 times NAV right now for BMNR. I get it. But if Ethereum does go to 10,000, which is kind of the target for the cycle, I think BMNR is going to be higher. But I'm not willing to take that risk. I just personally don't want to invest in an Ethereum treasury strategy. But if you are, I mean, that's the thesis. And so this is one of those things where if you get into a risky bet like this, even with someone like Tom Lee, who, people trust, you got to give him the benefit of time to be able for this thesis to play out, because that's exactly what MicroStrategy needed. And now, it's made a lot of people a lot more rich. They have not announced the purchase yet. They have completed the $250 million pipe deal they needed to raise the money to be able to deploy into Ethereum, but they have not actually announced the purchase yet. And when they do, that could be a catalyst, but also it's just like it's already trading at a pretty hefty premium. They also announced a $2 billion at the market offering. So they can dump $2 billion worth of BMNR shares at any price they want. I don't think they've diluted yet, but they can, right? So if this thing does get to like 70, 80 again, I do think they would probably dump maybe 500 million of that 2 billion, and then that could cause the price to go down. This is the issue with getting into these strategies in the short term, which is, by the way, MicroStrategy, if you're a shareholder, you are no stranger to dilution from Saylor. but it allowed him to raise more money to buy more Bitcoin to now have 537,000 Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And as a result, MicroStrategy is trying to get back to all-time highs. And so I think that's kind of the thesis of BMNR, if you do believe that there is a long-term argument right there. GameStop right here is up a little bit. Archer 10.72. Palantir been a good performer this week. I mean, we had one partnership with Tomorrow.io. Palantir right here at 141.2. Nothing too crazy, not going to the 150s, not tanking to the 120s. I think that now the catalyst is going to be on earnings. The drone stuff that came out yesterday by Pete Hegseth is actually bullish for Palantir, given they work with a lot of these drone companies, and bullish for the broader defense space. But I think now the catalyst is going to be earnings, and we're going to see what those earnings look like in order for Palantir to continue maintaining momentum. There was a picture from Carp yesterday, or a picture of Carp yesterday at some conference. Yeah, this was at the Allen & Co. Sun Valley conference. This was the same one of him in 2024. And then this is the one in 2025. So I said this is ontological aura. Because it's, ontological aura. So there you go. That's what we got for Palantir. Palantir right here, 141.20. Where is Bitcoin? We are still at 117.7. 117.7 on Bitcoin. All right, Tesla. So Tesla is going to open up their first showroom in India this Tuesday, July 15th. The showroom is located in Mumbai. I've never actually been to Mumbai. My uncle used to live there. It's kind of like the Hollywood of India. It's where all the Bollywood movies are, and where a lot of the creative arts get down. A lot of business goes there. But Tesla's opening up. The other big news on Tesla was that they officially reached out to Arizona to expand robotaxis to Phoenix. So Sawyer Merritt confirmed yesterday, because he emailed their DMV, and he found out that Tesla is reached out to them on June 26th to begin the certification process to create an autonomous robotaxi service in the state. Elon also said that the geofencing for Austin is going to be expanding by the end of this week, and that Bay Area is going through the regulatory checks just like Phoenix, and they could be expanding there by the end of the year. So you got Phoenix coming up, you have Austin expansion, you have Bay Area, and then I think one of the reasons the stock pumped yesterday as well is because he said Grok will be in your Tesla by latest next week. Which is pretty cool, dude. I mean, it'd be pretty damn cool to see Grok getting into your Tesla. You guys know I want to build up my Tesla position. I am starting to think that this is the range. If you want to begin a position, you kind of jump into the range being, I'm going to call it 280 to 320. I think that is the range that I'm going to inevitably have to build out my position in, because do I see it going below 280? It could. But I think it's had controversy after controversy for the past couple of months at this point, and it's held 280 pretty well. I mean, it got to 275 on the Epstein Trump thing, but then, that was gone in like a couple hours. And then do I see it getting above 320? Sure, but I also think a lot of that hype dies down. So I think my strategy is going to be, and I'm going to wait until we get closer to earnings, but I do think I will be buying before earnings. I hope it doesn't run up like crazy going before earnings. I hope it stays around basically that 280 to 320 range. I'm going to sell some calls against it. If my average is 320 before earnings, I'll sell like a 350 call, right? To collect some premium. And if it gets to that level, I'll manage it, because I do think it's not going to be able to get that much above it, because they just don't have the earnings growth. I don't think hype can take them back to 450 is what I'm trying to say. I think they're going to have earnings growth. But in the meantime, I think we can yield some premium off the calls. And if it tanks, my calls go to zero, which means I collect all the premium, and my adjusted cost basis kind of buffers a little bit of the stock tanking. Hopefully the stock doesn't tank like anywhere near to like the 200s, right? So, if I buy it at 320 and I get $15 of premium, my actual cost basis is 305. If it goes to 295, I'm okay bag holding at those levels. I'll just keep writing more covered calls. So those are my thoughts. I think Tesla earnings, I think, are in 2 weeks, July 24th, if I'm not wrong. The earnings are July 23rd. So I want to see where the price is that week, and I'm going to start building the position. And we're going to start off with 100 shares. We're going to start off with 100 shares. I'll let you guys know when I buy. And if it tanks after earnings, I'll buy more. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's time. NVIDIA's built out. Palantir has been built out. HUD's built out. I don't want to bet against Elon. One tweet and it could go down to 200. It could, but it's also like, dude, I mean, what tweet could he possibly put out that's worse than the Epstein thing? Or that I'm starting a literal new third party? that is going to be the catalyst that gets it down to like 200. I don't think there is that tweet, bro. I don't think there is that tweet anymore. Like, I think the dude's kind of invincible to an extent. And I'm saying that in the context of, I think Tesla is the real world manifestation of AI. The street knows it. They don't care about the earnings growth or the delivery numbers being crappy because they know eventually the story is going to play out. They're annoyed as hell at all of his antics. That doesn't mean he doesn't deserve to be the CEO of Tesla. And at the end of the day, I just think it's very hard to bet against Elon if there is an Optimus revolution coming and if there's a self-driving revolution coming. And there's a ton of nuances for why like Tesla's going to be delayed and they're not going to necessarily get everything done on time, yada, yada. But long term, if I'm not planning to sell these Tesla shares for, I don't know, the next 25 years, I think I'm going to be happy with the return. And the reason I'm saying 280 to 340 is because I've been observing the price action for the past 5 months. And like that's where it's been, 280 to 320. It's like gone up a little bit above that, gone down a little bit below that, but it's not necessarily giving you these amazing entry points again outside of March. And in March, I was buying NVIDIA, so which was the better decision. It's just now I think it's time for Tessie. All right, here we go. We have 40 seconds left until the market opens. It is Friday. We're going to see how this ends up playing out on the day. It's been a fun week. Bitcoin having some momentum. And now it's time to see, can we end out Friday the right way? And can we get a pretty strong close to the second week of Q2? Tesla right there at 308. Everything's red in the pre-markets. Maybe we get a reversal. Bitcoin's the only thing that's kind of green. Or maybe we end up seeing some continuation of the red. All right, folks, here we go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is Friday, July 11th, 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for watching across the entire world. Absolutely means the world to me for you guys joining every single day. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Palantir. There she goes. Nice little coffee in the morning. 142.83, trying to break 143 again, up 0.24%. So Palantir goes green. Oh, wow. Hoodie goes green. Not green yet, but 98.24, 98.30. Wow. Hoodie trying to get green. Tesla 308. That's flat. NVIDIA 164.20. NVIDIA's green. All right. I guess the market's waking up. Wow. Is Hoodie going for 99? Is the market waking up right at 9:30? S&P, not green, but that's up. SoFi, 21. Dude, pre-market was a head fake. Everything was red in the pre-market. You're getting green across the board. Meta got a green candle. Amazon, 224. Salesforce, 262. S&P, 623. Robinhood, 98.33. Tesla right there, 307. That's a little red. Palantir, there she goes, 143 on Palantir. Not bad. NVIDIA, can we see 165? Is that being too greedy? Is that being too greedy? $4 trillion right here back on NVIDIA. Google trying to go green at 177.11. Coinbase 389. Uber's at 96. Hims 50.2. CoreWeave, which did get hit bad yesterday, is getting hit again 2% as we open. It's up a little bit from the pre-markets, but CoreWeave investors just did not like that Core Scientific deal that they did. Rocket Lab, wow, 39.50. Rocket Lab did get a deal last night around Neutron. Wow, 40. Oh my, there she goes. Rocket Lab. There she goes. Congratulations to everyone in the lab of rockets. All-time highs at $40. $40 on Rocket Lab. Congratulations. I own Rocket Lab, average $22.95. I did not expect a move like this year, so I'm very happy about that. But I know a lot of people are even heavier in Rocket Lab, so congratulations. There you go. Palantir might be trying to go for 144. Oh, no, we did touch 144. Then we got rejected right at 144, 143.68. Palantir may be getting some of that momentum from the drone announcement that Pete Hegseth made as well. AMD right here, 142. SoFi, 21.27. Grab trying to get back to $5. Google, 177. Hoodie trying to push for 99. Looks like that Florida news not really hurting it too much. I mean, like, dude, Bitcoin's at all-time highs. Hood probably should be above 100. If we didn't have that Florida news at all, I think we would be there. But even with the Florida news, Hood's moving. Market kind of doesn't care as much. CRM 261, PayPal 74.74. By the way, Steve texted me yesterday and said we have to buy Salesforce. I told him I'm buying more Palantir instead. He's like, we have to buy Salesforce. It's going to 500. I was like, dude, no one cares about Salesforce. Even though, look, he's probably right. It probably will eventually go to 500. But I'm not buying Salesforce, dude. I'm not trusting Benioff and Agentforce as like the major software play. Obviously, Salesforce is technically undervalued if you look at their metrics. And it's a good company. It's not a bad company. If anyone wants to buy Salesforce, I think you'll be fine. But yeah, I'm not really buying Salesforce. Google right here, 177, S&P 622, Meta 718, Nubank right here getting hit from those Brazilian tariffs that was announced a couple of days ago. Red Cat 884, that's up 30%. My goodness, the drone companies. Let's take a look at them. Whoa, Arrow up 16%, Red Cat up 30%, UMAC up 25%, Ondas up 8%, Archers up 4%, Kratos up 11%, Arrow Environment up 7%, PDYN up 11.4%. Did we get to 165 on NVIDIA? Did we get to 165 on NVIDIA? Oh my goodness, we got to 165 on NVIDIA. Bro. There she is again. There she is again. Wow. Dude, 160. Wow. All right. There you go. Let's ring the bell for NVIDIA 165 and Rocket Lab 40. Wow. Pre-markets were a head fake, bro. Pre-markets were red across the board. We just busted through all these levels. Robinhood 99. Oh, it's time for 100. It is time for 100, baby. It is time to get back to 100. Resistance at 100. 38,000 shares. 38,000 shares. It is time to get back. It is time to get back, dude. Bitcoin at 118. Look at that. She wants 100. She wants 100. She doesn't care about Florida. She wants 100. Palantir as well. Great day. 143.72. Tesla is flattish on the day. NVIDIA nicely holding new all-time highs at 165. AMD 142. AMD was up 5% yesterday, so AMD did have a good day. And then SoFi right here back above 21, which is nice to see. Materials MP, that is up 10% again after being up 50% yesterday. So that is nice to see for them. Grab right here at 498. Where is Big Bear AI? That stock down 1.3. BMNR up 7%. SBET, which did buy 10,000 Ethereum today, that is up 7%. And then BTBT, another Ethereum treasury, that is up 2.74%. Where's ASTS? If Rocket Lab's at 40, ASTS is red. Rocket Lab is just under 40, but we did break 40, which is nice. And then Hoodie's going for 100. She wants it. She wants it. MSTY also doing great with MSTR. So if you got into that recently, not too bad. So my average is 21.50. I think MSTY needs to go to like 24 for every time they give me the dividend for it not to be eroding my cost basis, because it will erode the NAV. So if my cost basis is below the amount that the dividend is when it gets taken out, then, you know, I'll be up on the shares all the time, and it'll kind of be this thing that can print a dividend for me without having to actually make me red on the shares itself. But it needs to go up higher than this, which means MicroStrategy needs to go higher. So MSTY doing well, up about 1.78%. Hoodie, 20 cents away. Do we get to see? We haven't seen 100 since last week. We haven't seen it since last week. There she goes. We got it. We got it. 100 point. Oh, this is so nice. This is so nice. It's nice for her to come back. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. We missed you, but she's back. She is back. Let's see if she can hold up there. She broke 100.02. Took about 10 days to come back, but she's here. Got through resistance. She is back. I did buy 100 shares at 100.11 last week. So if we can get above that, we'll be green on those shares. I think she's back. Let's see if she gets back. She wants to be back. I mean, dude, like Bitcoin's at all-time highs. She wants to be back. Vlad just announced a new event in Vegas. They're going to, like, dude, they're going to announce even more things that all these analysts are going to have to be like, all right, I guess this is going to increase the growth. We got to upgrade it to 120. You know, like, we know what's happening. Like, the street knows what's outside of August and September being crappy for the entire markets. We know what's happening. And I think the street understands that very clearly as well. Pounds right here, 143, AMD at 142, S&P 622. Where is MSTR itself? MSTR is at 437. Coinbase is at 392. Dell 127, Eli Lilly 790, Baba, which did pay their dividends today. If you own Baba, you got a dividend. 106. Pfizer 2554. And then Robin at 99.35. You know, we asked Grok for the night that it came out. What's the most undervalued stock in the market that someone should buy? They said Johnson & Johnson. And then we said, try again. We don't like that pick. And then they said Pfizer. So they're going healthcare on us, at least from an AI perspective. But yeah, Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer were the picks. S&P 622, SoFi. Let me check 22 resistance on SoFi. Let's see if she's ready to break through and keep going. SoFi options should be up for people today as they are doing very well. 2148 right here. 22 resistance is 103,000. 103,000 shares. Is XRP going up? If it is, I'm not going to hear the end of it from Steve. He'll probably be texting me in like 5 minutes. Wow, XRP 271. Your boy is going to get a text message in T-5 by Steve with some tweet about XRP. I can imagine that will happen. Meta's down. Why is Meta down? Meta. Oof, yeah. I have to, by the way, I got to show you guys a clip from a podcast yesterday I was listening to. It's a venture capital podcast that was specifically talking about Meta strategy from like a VC angle and how they recruited all these people. It's a really good clip that I'll play in a second. But yeah, Meta is being as aggressive as you can imagine to expand and get this talent because they're realizing it's an AI war. But you know, that could be inflecting or hurting some of their margins, reflecting some of their AI progress. Meta right here, 714. I'll see if there's a direct headline. Amazon 223. I think tomorrow is the last day of Prime Day or Prime Week. So I did order something on Amazon yesterday. I got AirPods. I got like the AirPods you put in your ear, not the over the head AirPods. I got them because my mom got them a couple of days ago, and I was listening to them last night. I was like, dude, like I would like some AirPods, like something where I don't have to put like I have the AirPods Max where you put it over your head, but it's just really heavy. They were on sale for $150 instead of $250. I was like, all right, Amazon, you're gonna get this $150 out of me. So that was kind of my final purchase outside of buying a chair yesterday as well from Amazon. But I mean, I think I've spent like $2,000 for Prime. So I'm very curious to see if they can top the 25 billion estimates. Wow, SoFi 2155. That is all time. No, that's not all time. That's 52-week highs. All time is 28, but that's 52-week highs. John bought the AirPods as well. Yeah, dude. Usually AirPods, it's hard to get them on a discount, but they were on a discount yesterday, so I bought them. And so I'll be able to use that. I also bought oh wow, a lot of you guys bought the AirPods. Okay. A lot of you guys bought the AirPods. Because the AirPod Max are great. Like, and on the airplanes, it's amazing because it like completely gets rid of the noise. But like sometimes you don't always want to wear those heavy headphones on your ear. And the AirPods Pro had a nice little discount yesterday. 2145 right here on SoFi. Nvidia just below 165. Robinhood just below 100. Palantir just below 144. Goog's trying to go green at 177. I mean, you got the markets relatively green, if not flat. HIMS right here, basically flat. Palo Alto, all cybersecurity got hit yesterday based on a downgrade from CrowdStrike. So that's why those are down. Enphase right here, slightly red. Pinterest, slightly red. Circle down about 2%. Nothing's tanking. Nothing's mooning. It's pretty flat across the board, if not a little bit green on some of these names. Bitcoin is holding 117. 117.5. Is Rocket Lab back at 40? Rocket Lab is not at 40, but it did touch 40. So that's chilling out at 39.30. Ethereum pushing. Are we back above 3,000? We are not. The one thing I think people need to remember about Ethereum is that there is not a fixed supply like Bitcoin. There is not some 21 million like Bitcoin. Theoretically, the supply could be infinite. So it's also one of those things to think about. It's like there is a supply demand imbalance on Ethereum when there's more people chasing it, but it's not like there's this set amount that is never going to be mined again. But if the utility is more important, then I think that's what people are ultimately betting on. Pound right here, 143.95. Oscar's tanking. So Oscar got downgraded badly by the street this morning. Oh boy, 14.92. Some of the OGs covering this name got into it around 11.12, if I'm not wrong. That's where it was like when it first tanked in April. So, I mean, you're getting kind of close to where a lot of people really heavily bought the dip and were rewarded for that when it got to 23. But most people didn't buy during April. They bought it, at 20 to 23. So this one is definitely creating some pain. Yeah, VG's up because Next got upgraded. Next Decade got upgraded. So VG, Next Decade right there up 6.5%. VG, a Kris pick, Venture Global. That one's up 2.6%. As that one got Upgraded. How am I all green with the NASDAQ going more red? Well, it means you picked some good stocks. If the Qs are going red and you're green on the day, it means some of your picks are going green. The Qs right here down about 0.5% on the day. Wow, NVIDIA, are we going for 166? Let me check resistance. Dude, I love this stock so much. I love this stock so much. You have a CEO who all he does is care about getting results. You have a company that's growing even at 4 trillion. You have, like, they're at the center of everything. Everything goes back to NVIDIA when it comes to AI. You can't say it doesn't. And then you had one of the greatest dip opportunities in the history of a bull market in January. Like 166 has 112,000 shares. 112,000 shares. I love NVIDIA, dude. I love it. Absolutely incredible. It's been great. Steve's thesis on Salesforce. He's going to put out an article soon. He put out an article today about Cisco. I'll link that in the chat if anyone wants to read it. But maybe he'll be on the show today on Friday. Remember, Steve's been sick all week. He called in for like 10 minutes yesterday, and he went on an Elon rant when he called in. He was like, it was very upset. He's getting ready to sell all of his Tesla, dude. He freaking hates Elon right now. I have the opposite opinion. I actually think this is the time to be excited about Tesla. But yeah, hopefully we'll get him on today. His throat has just been hurting all week, and he can talk to us about Salesforce on the market close. NVIDIA right here, 165.50. NVIDIA gave me financial independence. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's just an incredible name. There was. Oh, I got to tell you guys something. So Louis, shout out to Louis. He's part of the chat. He might be here, might not be here. He messaged me yesterday. He's a friend of the channel, and he's been watching the streams for like a year now. Louis has 91,000 shares of NVIDIA at $2. That's his average at $2. And he was texting me last night on Twitter, and he was showing me his screenshots and his cost basis. All of it, by the way, is on Robinhood, which is awesome. I think he transferred from like Schwab to Robinhood, and he got 1 or 2% a while ago. But then he started showing me some text messages of him texting his mom and his dad and his sister back in 2016. And the text messages, he wasn't talking about NVIDIA as a gaming company. He wasn't talking about them as a crypto miner. He was talking about them as an AI company. And again, this is a regular guy. This is not some Harvard, MIT graduate. This is just a regular dude who in 2016, 10 years ago, decided that at 77 cents, at $1.50, at $2, NVIDIA was going to be the future. And he just held those shares. He might call into the show one day to kind of share his story, but it's just pretty incredible, dude. 91,000 shares. And he's showing me all these text messages from 2016 of him telling his mom and dad, just like, hey, mom, dad, how are you? I hope you're doing well. Make sure you buy some NVIDIA. Like, it was just this, it's kind of like the obsession a lot of us had with Palantir, telling everyone we knew. But it's the beauty of capital markets. You can believe in something. You got to be patient. It took 10 years, right? Nothing comes easy. It takes time. But the life-changing returns from 2 to 165 is just incredible. And I think this is the age of AI where we're going to see more of those stories, because this is the greatest technology. You need a macro tailwind, an S-curve of growth that facilitates the ability for a company to compound that exponentially. And it seems like AI is going to be what makes that happen. Pretty incredible. Pretty freaking incredible that we're seeing on NVIDIA. Rocket Lab, was that completely faded? Rocket Lab right here, 38.98. 38.98. All right, so that's down from 40. But still a great day. Did Trump tweet anything? Trump did not tweet anything yet. No tweets by Trump. Is Hood crashing? Hoodie. All right, we got up to, at least we got over 100, dude. I was just happy we got over 100. We got to see it again. It's not like it was a one-time thing. We did see above 100. There was plenty of buying pressure there to get there. Now you got some people selling, but the fact that we got over it twice, to me, just means it's inevitable. We're going to get back there. We are going to get back there. SoFi 2134. SoFi is kind of there. Oh, Jensen and Trump. Yeah, I forgot to mention this. Speaking of NVIDIA, Jensen visited Trump last night in the White House. We have no reports on what happened in the meeting. My assumption is that Jensen's really trying to get Trump to get rid of these export controls on China so that they can get some of the $15 billion of China revenue back for the year. Reportedly, Bloomberg said 2 days ago that Jensen's working on a brand new chip that would be specifically tailored to match regulatory frameworks for the Chinese. So I think in that meeting, hopefully Jensen just told Trump he was the greatest president of all time, and he's so thankful for the tariffs, and he's protecting the country, yada, yada. And then hopefully warmed him up enough to ask about getting rid of some of the export controls for China. But we don't have any update on if that's happening or not. I mean, if I was Jensen, I would just be like, dude, Mr. Trump, like, wouldn't you want the world's first $10 trillion company to be under your administration? Like, you got to massage his ego and just be like, well, we have a shot of really doing it. At least 6-7 trillion. We have a shot. But, you know, we need some of this China revenue. Oh, are we going for it? Are we going for 166, folks? Oh, my goodness. There she goes. 166 on NVIDIA. 4.047 trillion. The world's most valuable company, NVIDIA, at 166. Congrats, everybody. 4.04 trillion. Dude, 170? 170? Are we seeing 170? Like, look at this, bro. You know what's happening? Fund managers are piling in. Hedge funds are piling in. Institutional investors are piling in. Retail that feel that they have too much cash on the side that missed the dip all year, they're piling in, even though that's a small percentage because retail really bought up this stock. You got people piling in at this point. It's a blue chip stock. You can't deny it. By the way, Palantir at the same time breaking over 145 or 144. It would be very nice to see if we can get back to that 145 range. And Tesla trying to get back to 309 right here. Robin and maybe trying to get back to 99. S&P 500 still slightly red on the day, down about 0.5%. But NVIDIA right here, 166.35. It's becoming inevitable. It's a blue chip, and the street likes it. And the street likes it. Yeah, it's not just piling in, it's the holding. That's correct. That is absolutely correct. It is people that just don't want to sell it either because they see where this story is going. 167, folks, has 72,000 shares. 72,000 shares. By the way, JP Morgan came out yesterday and they said that last week, the most bought stock in the market was not NVIDIA. And NVIDIA has been the most bought stock for the past couple of weeks. It was actually Amazon. So people bought Amazon last week more than NVIDIA across the market. And I think part of the reason for that is because they saw Oracle's new deals. Oracle is saying, hey, we're getting all this cloud computing AI workload demand. AWS and Azure are the leading hyperscalers for that stuff. I think the street saw Oracle and they were like, all right, Oracle's a bit expensive. Let's get into Amazon. And so they picked Amazon over NVIDIA. So the pressure is on, even with Bezos selling, for AWS to really deliver a strong quarter. But if they can do that, I think Amazon gets some love. And speaking of Amazon, Morgan Stanley raised them to 300. It's a street high across the entire street. They have the highest price target. And they're saying, yeah, dude, we think EPS is going to go higher. And 300 is our case. 350 is our bull case for Amazon. NVIDIA right here, 166.55. 167 is in the horizon. Let's see if we can get there. But the street was pretty bullish on Amazon last week. They also probably bought it before Prime Week because, you know, they were just expecting better sales. And so far, the sales have not been the best. So we're going to have to see when the official number comes out, how good are the sales. Oscar, dude, Oscar's getting demolished right here. I am not thinking of, for those that are asking, am I going to buy this? The answer is no, just because I just don't understand healthcare, dude. I really don't. UNH, I don't think you need to understand healthcare that well if you just understand it's deeply undervalued and it was the world's 15th largest company before the fall off. And you can kind of just hold it for a few years and you know UNH is not going anywhere. Oscar's a much smaller company than UNH. Oscar's a $3.75 billion company. I feel like you need to know a lot more of the nuances on Oscar, even if you think it's super undervalued. And I just personally don't feel that educated on it. But yeah, I do think it's cheap. I've said this for the past couple of weeks. It is absolutely cheap. When we did our deep dive, it was cheap then at 20. It's cheap now at 14, but it just requires understanding more about healthcare. The uninformed will be shocked by Amazon's guidance in a couple of weeks. Amazon's operating margins, remember, were 12.1% last quarter. That is the highest they've ever been. Highest they've ever been. So if that number gets anywhere near 12.5 or 12.8%, and you got AWS that has an Oracle. Remember Oracle's guidance, guys? Remember Oracle says 70% cloud growth, 100% RPO growth, 40% cloud computing growth, like just ridiculous numbers across the board, which caused Oracle to go from 170 to 230. If Amazon has anything like that, this thing's going to 250 and then 300 pretty soon. Maybe not 300 by end of year, but definitely that 250, 275 range, especially if the S&P gets closer to 6,500. That's in sight for Amazon. But I mean, they got to deliver the goods on AWS. They really got to deliver the goods on that one. Totally agree on Oscar. As an employee, I acknowledge it's much higher risk and reward. Yeah, it's just higher risk and reward, right? UNH, I don't think there's massive risk here. It might take a long time for this to play out because of DOJ investigations, Wall Street Journal, yada yada. But 22 billion in free cash flow is 22 billion in free cash flow. Like at the end of the day, the street will inevitably find undervaluation in that when they're done worrying about the other stuff, which they're right to be worried about right now. It is what it is. With Oscar, I just think it's a smaller company that requires a lot more due diligence. NVIDIA right here, 166.45, S&P 622. Grab trying to get back above 5. Meta at 710. Oof. Meta actually. Is there a headline on Meta, bro? Why are we seeing 2% on Meta? Let me see if I can find something here. Amazon is still lagging behind the Mac 7. That is correct. So one could argue they are ready to break out. Okay, Reuters reports Meta is unlikely to make further changes in its pay or consent model, and the EU is preparing fresh charges under the Digital Markets Act. Daily fines could follow in the coming weeks if compliance isn't met. Okay, so they pissed off the EU regulators again. So that's what you got on Meta. That's what you got on Meta. Okay. That's usually not the best reason for Meta to sell off, but nonetheless, that's what you got on Meta. Tesla right here, 309. Palantir, 143. Palantir's been having a good... Wow, NVIDIA. Oh, I thought that was 167. I got too excited. I thought that said 160. It said 166.07. I was like, well, if you take the 7 and you move it up a couple digits, it gets one. But no, not there yet. I don't know enough about Applied Digital. I know they have a deal with CoreWeave, but I just don't know enough about them. So I don't know enough a lot about all the semis other than NVIDIA. I can explain to you some parts of different semiconductor stocks, but like Jose is the guy who can tell you about, like you ask him about any semiconductor company, he'll tell you about it. But I think if you're going to own a Micron or a Dell or an SMC, you got to really understand that business. You know, NVIDIA, I think you have to understand, but also you can kind of just, well, it's GPUs, AI, like any random person can say, okay, I can bet kind of on that overarching thesis, but it's important to still understand the nuances of it. With the derivative semi plays, if you're betting that if NVIDIA goes up, they're going to go up as well. That's not a horrible thesis because it's technically right. Like none of those are going to move if NVIDIA doesn't move, but I do think it matters to like understand how they operate. Micron right here, 122. That one is flat right here. APLD, that one's also down about 2%. Where's BM&R? BM&R is up about 8%. Up about 8%. Is Trump tweeting again? Okay, Trump's not tweeting, but you guys are getting Trump quotes. So where is he talking? Is he live? Where are these getting the Trump quotes from? Where are we getting Trump quotes? Where is this guy live? We got to see. Maybe he's live somewhere right now. Well, the quotes are that he's mad at Powell again. So Trump on Powell, terrible job. Okay, well. Dude, if Powell doesn't cut rates in September, I really wonder if Trump goes to his lawyers and say, hey, get rid of this guy. Like, let's do whatever we have to do to get rid of him. Hoodie, maybe trying to go back to 100. Maybe trying to go back to 100. Tesla above 310. Oh, there she goes. All right, Tesla going green. Tesla goes green. Hood is green. NVIDIA, all-time highs. S&P still lagging on the day, but it's not down as much as it was before. And then SoFi, 2158. AMD as well, trying to get back to 144. And then potentially 145. Google right here, 177. Google also going green. Google earnings coming up in 2 weeks, folks. This is going to be a big one for Sundar. He did announce yesterday that VO3, their video model, has had 40 million videos that were created in the past 2 months. So it's not like Google is not executing when it comes to AI. Ethereum right here, back above 3,000, which is very nice. I will say, let me say this right here. I said this yesterday, but I'll say it again. I am using AI overviews more than any other LLM right now. And AI overview is not even like an LLM, but it's like the Google search thing. I use Grok every day still for like my tasks, but I am using AI overviews for pretty much every other query that I have when it comes to like just like things I need to know. Now, I don't know how much money they're making off that. And I definitely don't know if the pipeline, the gateway drug to me using AI overviews is I'm going to become a Power Gemini user. But I'm not opposed to that happening. I kind of want to just see how it plays out. And if that does happen for me, I mean, yeah, I could see it happen for other. Dude, AI overviews are so fast. And you just get exactly what you need. You don't get like this 8-paragraph response. You get exactly what you want. And it's quick because like I'm on Chrome right now. So instead of going to chatgpt.com, I just search inside of the browser. So it's basically Perplexity, bro. Perplexity coming out with their AI browser yesterday. I mean, like it looks cool, but like I feel like Chrome is basically Perplexity. So I'm just saying, I think AI overviews, they were 1.5 billion daily users last quarter. I think that's probably up to 2 billion. And if that is, maybe that's what the street is going to like. Big Bear AI right here, that is down below 3%. QBTS, the quantum stock, that's down 1.94. SoundHound is down 1.2. Tesla above 310. And then NVIDIA trying to get to 167. XRP 281, all right. 278, there she goes. I'll be hearing from Steve today. I will definitely be hearing from it. I don't have AI on Robinhood yet. I don't have Cortex. Some of you guys have it. And for the people that have it, I know a lot of people are enjoying it. It gives you like real-time updates on exactly what's happening, like for a stock and like why it's happening. But I do not have the update yet on that one. SoFi 2152, S&P 623, Hoodie 99.59, Archer 10.95, GameStop 23.73, CoreWeave is down. Wow, CoreWeave getting hit this week, dude. Almost down 20%. Market cap still 60 billion. Still a bit expensive. GameStop 23.73, Nubank 12.98. And then Raytheon right here, that one also 145, NVIDIA 166.14. Can you talk about Oscar? Again, we covered it. They got downgraded aggressively today by Wells Fargo to like $10. Another firm got them to $9. I just think you buy this if you believe in the future of healthcare and Oscar being playing a massive role there. But you don't buy this if you don't understand exactly how their business model, in particular for subsidies from the ACA, work. And if you learn about it and you still think they're undervalued, then you buy. If not, then you kind of just stay put and, you know, have it play out. Now, if you're already holding it and you're deep in it already at 19.20, I mean, I don't know if this thing goes down to actually $8 or $9. So I don't think that. I think it's too undervalued for that to happen. So I personally would just hold on to it, sell some covered calls, try to generate some premium during this time. But I wouldn't necessarily think it's like going to $8. I'm going to lose even more of my money. It's just this big, beautiful bill. It kind of really changed the dynamics for how people were thinking of it as a insurance play. Is AMC up right here? Wow, AMC up 11%. Are we back at 100? Oh, we're back at 100. There she goes. There she goes. She just needs to stay here. She just needs to stay here. Don't go back to 99. Go back to 100. Triple digits. It looks so nice on you. It looks so nice on you. Look at that, dude. 100. 100. It was last week, right? We hit 100? Yeah, it was last week. It's literally last week. So it is so nice. We're basically at the end of this week, so it feels like it was 2 weeks ago. But Wong says I have $100 calls today. If they're covered calls, you might have to roll them. If they're bought calls, hopefully they stay in the money. There's no shares at 100. 100 resistance is done. So let's check 101. Let's check 101. NVIDIA, by the way, 166.23. 101 is 20,000 shares. 20,000 shares. 20,000. 100.05. We hit 100.29. Hood is on flyer and Florida couldn't stop Vlad. Yeah, dude. I think the street's basically saying we don't care about Florida, bro. We don't care about Florida. Oh, by the way, about Grab, are we back at 5? 55,000 calls were traded on Grab yesterday for the $5 August 1st strike, which is the day after earnings. So I think the street's expecting well above $5 after earnings. They could be wrong. But, you had a lot of calls bought up on Grab at $5 for August 1st. I think the premium was like 30, 40 cents. So they're kind of expecting it to be above, like realistically 5.25-ish. So we're going to have to see how that one plays out. Robin right here, back at 100. Back at 100. Buy Amazon or Google. All right, let's do that poll in the chat. I feel like we've done this poll a bunch of times, but we always need to get the vibe check on this. Right now, do you buy Amazon or Googs? Amazon, Google. What do we think? I think you guys are going to pick Google. Google's cheaper. It's way cheaper. There she goes, 100.3. That's all-time highs, folks. Oh, wait, no, 100.88 is all-time highs. So we got to get to 101. Amazon is a safer bet. Goog could be a better 3-year return. Yeah, it's kind of 50-50. 52% say Googs. 52% say Googs. I could build out the Amazon position outside of Tesla going into the end of the summer, but I'm going to pick Tesla, bro. I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to pick Tesla. I know Tesla is way more expensive than Amazon. I don't know. I guess I like the drama that Elon I like the show that he puts on for shareholders, but I'm going with Tesla. I just use FSD every day, dude. I feel that product. I understand it. I know it's going to get better and better. Amazon's obviously much safer, but I don't know. I think Tesla's the one over the next 5 years. I did not sell Bull. Where's Bull? I have covered calls on it that are probably up like 95% right now. Yeah, so my covered calls on Webull are okay. So let me show these. This will be a little bit of a good opportunity to just talk about covered calls. So we talk about covered calls a lot on the channel. Here is exactly kind of what they look like. So I sold $15 covered calls for Webull for July 11th. I got 9 cents of credit, which is 9 cents times 100 shares. I have 1,000 shares. So 9 cents times 1,000 is $90. Not a lot of money, but it's still $90. I paid $14,500 for the shares. So let's do 90 divided by 14,500. My return this week was 0.62%. Not crazy, but if you multiply that by 4, that's a 2.48% return for the month. And again, there's not a lot of businesses on this planet, not a lot of business models that allow you to collect 2.5% on your money in a month. So this is why when we talk about covered calls and cash secured puts, there is logic to them, and there is an opportunity there. So the terms and conditions of this options contract was that if Webull is above 15, I am contractually obligated to sell my 1,000 shares at 15. I have them at 14.50, so I'd make 50 cents a share plus the 9 cents of premium. If it's below 15, which is what we're seeing right now at 12.67, I keep, which is why I'm up 89% on the premium right now. I'm up $80. I keep that $90 and I keep my shares. And now my adjusted cost basis, instead of being $14.50, because I collected 9 cents, is now $14.41, which is not, the craziest reduction of my cost basis given the stock's at $12.65. I'm still bag holding the shares, but it is a little bit of money that you're collecting in the mean term. So that is kind of what I'm doing on Webull. And yeah, I mean, eventually I might just sell it because I don't really care about it. But for now, let's just hold on and see if it can get any momentum. Robin right here, it got to 100.62, and then got hit right at the level 100.20. This is when you close and resell lower. Yes. Now remember, my average is at 14.50. So if I were to sell a covered call at 13, I would get way better premium than at 15 because that's, the stock is closer to 13 than 15. If it did get to 13 and my shares got called away, I would be losing $1.50 a share because my average is 14.50. So this is the problem when you have a high average and you sell in the money calls. If your calls get called away, if your shares get called away, you lose money on the shares. But if they don't get called away because the stock stays under the strike price, you collect more premium, but obviously you're taking, a higher risk. So for Webull, we'll just keep selling those OTM calls every week. So would you sell covered calls for next week at your break-even strike price? Yeah, I mean, break-even, you can sell it at 14.52. They don't have 14.50s on the option chain. That's why I didn't do it. If they did, I would have. So I just did 15 instead. Robinhood 100.7. Oh, are we doing it? Are we doing it? Is it time? 20,000 shares at 101. Are we doing it? NVIDIA 166.20. SoFi 2174. SoFi's trying to go for 22 as well. Palantir 143 and then Tessie 309. Let's see. We might be going for 101. Ethereum and Bitcoin running, by the way, are really good for HUD. People are buying those on Robinhood. Ethereum back above or just under 3,000. But we got there today. I think she's trying to do it. 100.85. I think she's trying to do it. 51% of you said Google. 51% of you said Google over Amazon. I'm an SF. I'm surprised by how many Waymos there are. Yeah, dude, there's a lot of them. When I was in SF, there's a lot of them. So, I mean, look, Waymo obviously has the distribution advantage and they're expanding way faster than Robotaxi. But then, you know, it becomes a question of which one is going to have more scale when it's all said and done, and when, you know, the regulatory frameworks are clear, and when Tesla can actually unleash massive amounts of cars on the Robotaxi network. And again, I don't even think Tesla has to beat Waymo. I think it can be a market where both survive. But I do think Tesla can get the cost per mile down more than Waymo. And if they do, that'd be very good for Tesla. 100.30 on Robinhood. SoFi, we're still trying to get to 22, 21.72. Both of them trying to get there. And then NVIDIA just chilling out at 166. You can sell HUD calls for August 15th, about a month out, for 150 strike and get $1 premium. Yeah, dude, the HUD calls are juicy. I wouldn't do anything below 130, but still, even in the 130s, a month or 2 months out, you're getting some pretty good premium. And so here's the question, guys. Here's the question. Let me ask this question in the chat. Because I mean, this could be what changes the rest of the year. Okay, here's the question. Do you think August and September gives us a, call it, 5 to 10% decline? Because if it doesn't, which historically it always does, if you look back on every, even post-election year, August and September, minimum 5% down. If it doesn't, and we go right into a flat August, September, and then a Santa Claus rally, I mean, when people say 7,000 on the S&P by the end of the year, that is not crazy to think. I wouldn't think it gets there, but like, it's not crazy to imagine if we survive August, September, which again, historically on every metric you look at just tends to be the worst time for the markets. If we get through that, I mean, this is going to be a pretty decent rest of the year. Obviously, we need the trade deals to come in. We need inflation to come down, all that stuff, but still 70% of you say yes. So I agree with yes to an extent. I'm more on the 5% camp versus 10% camp. But the reason I say yes is because two things. Number one, historically, I'm not going to bet against the patterns, and the patterns are saying that we might go down. If we don't, I'd be happy. But if we do, it's to be expected. Number two is this freaking August 1st deadline by Trump. Like, that's 3 weeks away. If he doesn't taco out of that, I don't know. I don't think markets have to tank, but I do think markets might be a little jittery, especially if Jay Powell starts getting a little too hawkish at Jackson Hole, which is the conference that he talks about before the FOMC meeting in September. Create a little bit of volatility. It could be brief. Yeah, it could be brief. That could also happen. India's foreign minister will visit China this weekend in his first trip in over 5 years. All right, so India's coming to China. India will be coming to China. Who will be selling, though? See, that's the good question. That is the question. Because if Robinhood goes to 80, I'm not selling my Robinhood, right? And if Robinhood does go to 80, I think institutional investors that have seen this story and missed this story are probably going to say, well, we should probably buy some at 80. So like, if you're a fund manager that is underperforming, you can't afford to really be selling here. If you're a fund manager that's massively beating the market, you can probably lock in some profits if we have a drawdown. But I mean, I don't know if that's the best reason to necessarily sell. So it just becomes a question of like, who exactly will be doing that? So I don't know. We're going to see. We're going to see how this plays out. But I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to try to find the chart for you guys that shows August and September being bad. I have this thing saved. I got to find it. But it's a specific post-election year chart that shows when this happens. Okay, in the meantime, I want to show you guys a clip right here from that VC podcast I was talking about. So this is a VC who's in Silicon Valley, and he's talking specifically how Meta recruited two of the biggest other VCs, venture capitalists, to work for them, and the economic dynamics on how they convince them to be able to come to Meta instead of deploying the money, because when you're a VC, your businesses, you raise money and you invest in startups. Zuckerberg convinced them to stop doing that, even though they got really good returns, and to join Meta. So I want to play this clip right here. This will give some context on why exactly Zucks has been able to do what he's doing in regards to getting talent.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Harry, but let's just do the math for a moment for folks that might read or watch. So you have a $1.1 billion fund. It's 4x, okay? Let's be generous on the math, but true, right? Half of it's deployed. So 500 million times 4x, that's to 2 billion.
Okay, I wanted to play a clip, but I can't play a clip because Robin Hoodie is making all-time highs. Ladies and gentlemen, we got 101 on Robinhood. Yeah, honestly, this is my fault for trying to play a clip when Robinhood was at 100.50. I thought I had a little bit of breathing room. I didn't. Obviously, I didn't. It was my fault. I shouldn't have played a clip when Robinhood was at 100.50 because she wants to go higher. She wants to go higher. 101, baby. 101, baby. Dude. This is pretty incredible, bro. This is pretty incredible. This is a lot. Trump is live? What do you mean Trump is live? Where's Trump? Where is he? How's this guy live? What is he doing? Where the heck is he live? Hold on. Let me see. 101. Oh boy, please don't say anything to ruin this, Trump. Please don't say anything. Where is he? 101.2 on Robinhood. Wow, she's moving. Oh, he's about to speak. He's about to go to Texas. Okay, so he's about to speak live before he goes to Texas. Okay, so he's not live yet. He's getting on the podium. I will share it once he goes live, but he's not live yet. 101.20 on Hoodie. 101.20. Where's Bitcoin? Bitcoin is at 118, 117.9. That's probably also helping Robinhood. Let me check resistance at 102 on Hoodie, because why not, baby? We're going to 120. We're going to 120. S&P inclusion hasn't even happened yet. All these big boys are going to have to buy this stock at 100 when we get included to the S&P. 102 has 8,000 shares, guys. I mean, we could see 102 today. It could happen. It could indeed happen. Oh, no, I don't think Trump is speaking. No, he's leaving right now to Texas.
Situations like this. We flew out to Las Vegas after.
He's leaving right now. You see this? He's leaving. Oh, so he already spoke. Oh, that's probably where people were getting those quotes from. Okay, so for some reason, I didn't see any live streams when he was actually speaking, but it seems like it was 10, 20 minutes. He said some quotes about Powell or whatever, and now he's leaving. Okay, so he's going to Texas. All right, so we don't have Trump talking. We already had him talking. Okay, cool. So we got to 101 while Trump was talking, and we're good. Didn't say anything. Is SoFi trying to get to 22? SoFi, let's see. SoFi might be trying to get to 22, folks. Is she next? We got NVIDIA to 166, maybe 167. We got Robin Hoodie above 101. And let's see if we can get SoFi at 22 today. And then Tesla back at 310. And then Palantir at 144. Bitcoin is definitely pushing Hood right now. Yes, Bitcoin's pushing Hood. ASTS, that one's also 5%. Wow, ASTS. All right, that's great. That one's been in the gutter all week, up 5%. Rocket Lab just below 40, 39.38, but that one did hit 40 today. And then you got Hoodie at 101. Christopher Patel, good morning.
Let me tell you something. I hate fucking Fidelity, man. When it comes to trading options on Fidelity, it's complete just, especially when like you look at Robinhood and how easy they make it. It's such a more difficult process to put just a basic order in. It's I hate it, man.
Dude, you gotta switch over to Hood. Bring everything to Hood at this point.
Well, the only thing is like my IRA is with Fidelity, and it's been there for like ever. And I have like a lot of fixed income stuff that I have with them. So I'm never like, oh, you know what, I'll keep them around. But like right now, I just wanted to like move some positions around. And I was like, all right, let me go to Fidelity. And the one thing is like I'm here with my wife. Like at this resort because she's got like a conference, and I only brought my iPad. I didn't bring my laptop. And dude, it is a pain trying to trade with this thing.
I would imagine.
I mean, eventually I got it accomplished, and I'm pretty sure I didn't even get good execution prices because like it took so long to get everything done.
Yeah.
It's just a pain in the ass. Well, Robinhood right now, it's like 2 seconds. Like you just go in, like, move a few things, and you're done. And it's such an easy process. It's like, yeah, there's a reason why people choose Robinhood over Fidelity and a lot of these other brokers that just make the process of buying and selling options so complicated. And then like you're literally fidgeting around, and then a lot of times you get confused. I was like, oh, did I buy to sell? Did I do this to do, close? And especially if you're doing like multi leg spreads or multi-leg like option strategies, dude, it is mind-numbing how difficult some of these other guys make it to do these things. So yeah.
What are you thinking about the markets here? I mean, Trump's doing tariffs at 35% on Canada. You got Nvidia hitting all-time highs. I mean, like how do you kind of define the state of the macro that we're in right now?
I think we're getting to the point where things are getting a little frothy, but then again, like who knows what frothy means in this day and age anyway. I think a lot of crypto names are running, which is interesting to see. I mean, we had this discussion about a week, like not even a week, like 2 weeks ago. Remember, like we need to figure out a way to make money on Ethereum. And apparently the easy answer to that was just bet on Tom Lee and the treasuries, right?
Yeah.
And that would have been a nice run.
Well, you said SBIT at $9 is when you said we need to look into Ethereum.
Yeah.
We should have looked into Ethereum.
I'm telling you, I thought you would do more DD with Tom Lee when you were there, having a conversation with him. I relied on you, man. You failed me. Now we missed out on this.
See, but you and me aren't the type of guys to buy a Ethereum treasure. Like we're not that, So it was not natural to us. But it's done well for SharpLink if you bought at 9, and for BMNR, it did well if you bought the day he announced it. But anytime after that, it's been pretty ugly.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to buy things you don't understand. I mean, you can see interest, but you can't see the business model. And the thing is, like, if you can't see the business model, it's really hard to like try to say like, okay, yeah, there's value here and there isn't value there. So if we did buy it, it would be purely based on just, oh yeah, I'm seeing hype in this specific kind of investment, and so we should kind of lean into it for a temporary trade. It's nothing that would have been super long term. And I'm still trying to figure out like, okay, what is the actual value that can be generated from these Ethereum treasuries outside of just stablecoin legislation coming in and Ethereum utilization goes up. And if Ethereum utilization goes up, then the proof of stake situation works out where there's more Ethereum that's burned. So Ethereum value tends to go up. And if Ethereum value goes up, then of course the Ethereum treasury holders, they get value from that. So, I mean, that's the logical answer. But once again, I don't know if that's 100% true either. And I'm more focused right now on just finding the more unconventional plays right now to the portfolio. So I'm reducing down exposure to more high beta names and just
you're reducing exposure for high beta because you're afraid August, September is going to be ugly, or like what's the logic?
Well, a couple of things are in my brain right now when it comes to that. Is that number one?
Actually, Kris, real quick, before you continue, people are really asking about this. I want your response to that question, but do you have any thoughts on Oscar? Because a lot of people are just curious on this.
Well, with the big, beautiful bill, you've got a lot of regulatory changes that put Medicaid at a big disadvantage. And because of that, more people should theoretically be switching over to ACA marketplaces where Oscar tends to focus a lot of their attention. So, the market may be reacting negatively, but then again, it's all the health insurers are taking a dump right now. So you look at the three major ones that, outside of Oscar is a very small player, but you look at United Health. United Health is, below the 300 mark. I've been adding to the position, and believe it or not, that's one of the reasons what I was doing this morning. I was adding more to my United Health position. Molina's down. What is the other one? CNC, Centene. Centene is down as well. And Centene is more focused on pure Medicaid patients because I think a good portion of their patients come from Medicaid. And a lot of the cuts that the Trump administration has with regards to Medicaid long term are going to be coming from that. So, they're putting in things like work requirements and everything else, which may discourage people from being on Medicare. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of nuances there. And
So
then,
would you take a shot on Oscar at these levels, or no? You think it's too much risk with the ACA?
no, I think it's a little too much risk. I think instead just focus on the leaders. We had this discussion yesterday where it was just like, hey, as long as you stay with the leaders, the leaders with their strong cash flows can figure things out. The good thing about Oscar is that they're in growth mode. And so as their operating income starts to go in the other direction, there's definitely value there. So long-term potential for Oscar could be massive, but that's dependent on how they can structure their business and, return value to shareholders, where UNH and Centene might be more like mature companies. So, you may not see the extraordinary gains that you would see from like a smaller player breaking into a much larger market cap. But yeah, I think
going back to froth, what are the indicators for you on why you want to de-risk from some of the growth names in the portfolio?
Well, number one, just the amount of people kind of jumping in. I think Sam, if you look at Sam's Twitter, he kind of put it in there as well that the number of market participants has grown significantly. And so whenever you see a lot of people kind of coming into the market and you've seen these huge moves, that typically signals somewhat of a top. It doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% like guaranteed, like, oh yeah, this is the exact top, but you're riding the risk of being in an overbought market. Thank you. I don't need any thing. Thank you. Sorry, the maid just tried to come in, and I'm like sitting butt ass naked in my bed right now.
That's what. So you're on stream with us naked. That's what.
I'm always on stream naked. Anytime you don't see the camera, it's because I'm like hanging, just chilling. This is my day off, so I'm not gonna be like, yeah, let me get dressed up just to get on stream. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta wear a suit and tie for us, bro. We need you.
Yeah.
Kris, I might have to stop you while you're talking because we're 10 cents away from once. Oh, wait, maybe she's there. She's 2 cents away. Can she do it? Can she do it? Here we go. They might blue ball us here. Okay, they're gonna make us wait.
Anyway, it'll get there in a second.
It'll get there once you start talking, and I'm gonna have to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Wait, are you in you're not in Mexico though, right?
No. I'm in Florida.
Okay. Oh, there she goes. There she goes, ladies and gentlemen. 167 on NVIDIA.
I guess Tanner's gonna fly us out, man, on his private jet.
He's gonna fly us out. 4.074 trillion on NVIDIA.
Insane, right?
Absolutely insane. Okay, so some parts of the market you want to de-risk out of because you think there's too many market participants or too many names that are getting bid up, essentially.
Yeah, and then on top of that, the current administration, I mean, whenever they start bringing Peter Navarro out, I feel like that's like, okay, let's get trade tariffs and all that stuff, like uncertainty back up again. And because of that, that uncertainty, I think the markets could have a little bit of a pullback on the high beta names. And so if that happens, we could have almost like a Liberation Day light kind of a scenario, And so I'm just like, oh, you know what? It's best to just take a step back from high beta and just chill out and like value and see where things go. The other thing is like Bitcoin riding up. I think that's, in my opinion, that's a clear indicator that people are expecting inflation in the future. So what they're seeing is just this Trump administration kind of like not being fiscally responsible, and Elon's kind of called it out. And because of that, people are like, well, I don't necessarily trust the US dollar, and I'd rather be in other assets. I mean, the one that's really interesting that I kind of like spoke about a while ago, but like I only did it like on my Discord, and it wasn't something that I was heavily invested in or anything, but it was something that was very interesting. Look at Platinum. And if you look at one company in particular, SBSW.
Sabine Stillwater.
right? So they're just basically a mining company. It's about $5 billion market cap. But look at its 1 year performance.
Whoa.
Yeah.
This went from basically 3 to 8.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting kind of situation right now, in that people are really bidding up like real assets, right? Like especially things that will hold value long term. So platinum is getting a huge bid, and because of that, companies that have like mining operations in that specific sector are doing well. The only thing is, a lot of mining companies, they're not located in the US, they're located outside the US and listed outside the US as well. So yeah.
Okay, so that's one new name you're looking into. VG got a bid today with Next Decade, which was nice to see.
Yeah. No, it's good. I think long term, you're starting to see deals come in for VG, and you're also seeing deals come in for Next Decade. And so, once these deals are signed, like they're usually long term SPA deals where there's sales and purchase. So what it does is it gives you this clarification on future returns, because it's almost like these ironclad contracts that are out there. And once you do that, then you can, of course, take those pieces of paper, go to the bank, and you get financing. And so the future becomes a lot more crystallized. And if you look at the report that not Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan just did on Next Decade, they kind of outlined that trains 4 and 5, if they FID, then the value of the stock should be closer to 15 rather than the $9-11. So because of that, some people who've been tracking this thing kind of jumped in, and people have been in this thing with me for like literally like since the 4s and 5s. And I think right now both Next Decade and Venture Global have a really promising future ahead of them. Yeah, and just these are not things that I would necessarily tell people to trade, especially Next Decade, because it is pre-revenue. They don't have any trains right now. They only have 3, and one, like 3 of them are in construction. The other 4 and 5, they're contracting out right now. Things get really interesting once you go into like trains 6, 7, 8, 9, and possibly even further than that. And those trains are going to be 100% owned by Next Decade, but a lot of that stuff is not going to show up until probably like 2035. So if you're investing in this thing, and you're looking for like some quick gains, probably not the way to go. But if you're like a nice long-term 10-year plus horizon person, you got a pretty good potential on this one. And this is in both mine and Matt's portfolios. So
what do you think about these drone companies getting a bid with Hegseth?
I haven't done much research on this. I wouldn't know. I mean, I do know that a lot of the drone companies are. All right. So my honest opinion, just on face value, is that anytime you see hardware related like businesses, they tend to eventually go low margin, and they don't make for the greatest investments, right? Because there's nothing that you could say that's 100% proprietary about that business.
Right.
If a person makes a drone, another one makes a better drone, another one makes a cheaper drone that's even better than that one. And so they're always out competing each other for margins, right? So, I mean, I'm sure that 1 or 2 of them are going to have some sort of like technological edge over the other, but it's really hard to determine that as of right now. Instead, I think platform companies are probably more likely to do better. So as an example, like Anduril will probably do way better because they're not just quote unquote a drone company. They're a weapons platform company where it's end-to-end stuff. So you're dealing with, the soldier on the ground, you're dealing with command and control systems, you're dealing with the hardware, which is the drones itself, of course. And then you also have the targeting software that's out there. So, that is a real moat, not just, oh yeah, let's build drones. Like, bro, anyone could really there's, hundreds of people that can build drones, but it's that platform approach where you can use those drones in the most effective manner. That's what creates real value.
No, I think that's a fair point. I think that is a fair point. NVIDIA right here, 167.70, folks. Kris, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, why do you think the street's piling into this one?
Well, the key to right now is that growth in AI is not slowing down as of right now. Like the number of chips that are coming out, and NVIDIA has published a very healthy roadmap where they're basically their demand for AI chips is not slowing at all. And if AI chips are not slowing down, then Nvidia is just going to keep generating more and more cash flow. And Nvidia will then be able to kind of just use that cash flow to buy back shares. So even if right now you're looking at this company, it's a $4 trillion company, it has tremendous cash flows and they could keep buying back shares. In which case now the value for shareholders goes, from just, hey, look, Nvidia is growing really fast to, hey, Nvidia is buying back a crap ton of shares in a very quick manner. So, and unlike other companies, Nvidia has a pretty strong moat. There's no one really that can do what they're doing outside of maybe Google. Google is the one that I would probably say should get a lot more attention, but it's not, especially because their TPU designs and everything else do allow it to compete somewhat in terms of total capacity with NVIDIA. And right now, Google has committed to doing a lot of their own build outs, and I think eventually we'll see that in the numbers as well. I think Google right now, if you look at its operating cash flow, they're massive. I think today something you said was very interesting because I caught myself doing the same thing, which was the AI overviews. I just ask Google a question now and just wait for the AI overview because it's so quick. So there was some things that I was doing like, oh yeah, let me go to ChatGPT. And I realized I'm not doing ChatGPT for simple questions anymore. I'm just going back to Google again. And it's a very weird thing because I realized that, wait a second, I didn't realize how much more I've been using Google's AI overviews until you kind of mentioned it,
Right. Kris, I'm curious about your thoughts on this. So here's the chart that is every post-election year from 1950 to 2021. As you can see, February, March, you tend to get a dip, which almost exactly happened this year. And then April was a little bit worse because of tariffs. But you kind of peak out in August and you kind of crash down September, October, and then Santa Claus rally. You think this happens again this year?
I mean, there could always be some existential threats that come around. Markets have this way of something happens and everything just dumps on it. Like we had the Israel-Iran conflict thing. Remember that for what?
A week?
Yeah. That lasted, where oil prices were going to go to 100, and then everything just kind of came back to normal again. So the one thing about this administration that you got to give them a little bit credit is that they will bend very quickly. And I know everyone's talking about this taco trade thing, and it sort of pisses Trump off, I'm sure. But at the same time, he's pragmatic enough to know that he does not want to destroy the goodwill of the people and destroy the economy. So he's going to do what's in the best interest of the people and the economy, so that this way, he can take credit for, of course, and keep his popularity. The one thing that I don't think a lot of people have been talking about that I think should get a little bit more attention from an investing standpoint is the number of deportations and self-deportations.
Tom Lee talked about that as well. He said the reason JOLTS went up is because a lot of people aren't showing up to work because they're afraid of getting deported.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about this whole scenario is that, from the raw numbers, I think 100 to 200,000 people have been forcefully deported. But if you look at the total number of self-deports, I think it's in the millions at this point. Yeah. I think it's actually hit 1 million plus of people just self-deporting, saying, you know what, we're done. There's a lot of people that have been here for 15 years almost and 20 years, and they're self-deporting because they're so afraid of these ICE raids that they're like, look, I'd rather, not deal with this. And so these people are leaving. And the thing is, I know there's always going to be some conflict among people about illegal immigration and everything else, but you do have to realize that a GDP is based on the total number of people transacting. And so, people provide goods and services and everything else. And so when you have this many people leave the economy, that does slow things down significantly. And so on one hand, we've got this narrative that tariffs are going to cause inflation. On the other hand, we've got this massive amount of depopulation happening in a very rapid clip. And if you look at the examples of Japan, anytime you have a decline in population, you tend to, or decline in population growth, you tend to get a lot more disinflation and deflation happening.
Right.
So the way that I would kind of like say this is, imagine right now you've got 1 million people. These people have been like living somewhere, right? So people will be like, well, illegals don't own homes. Well, sometimes they do through like straw buyers and stuff, but other times it's mostly because they rent from people who own homes. So imagine right now all these people are leaving, and now you've got a bunch of landlords trying to rent things out, and now you've got a lot more vacancies. So what happens to the price of rent? It tends to go down, and if price of rent goes down, that means inflation should theoretically come down as well. Same thing with like restaurants. Same thing with other businesses that have large immigrant populations around them. These are cities and states and that have these populations. If they start to lose people, that means that businesses slow down in that area. And if businesses slow down, that means that business might close, and you might get sort of an economic depression. And
you think that could be a little bit of a black swan potentially?
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily a black swan, but there's things that are like counteracting each other that go contrary to what like economists believe. And I think that's what the Trump administration is actually seeing right now. And that's kind of their plan. On one hand, you've got Jerome Powell saying, well, tariffs are going to cause inflation because, people are going to have to, or businesses will charge more. But then on the other side, you're deporting all these people. So you're causing like aggregate demand to fall down. And then on top of it, like the bottom half of American consumers, they're not doing that well. They're struggling. So you're at a point right now where majority of the economy is kind of being supported by a very, like probably the top 20% of the people. So all the additional spending is coming from there. And so there's this complicated dance that's happening in the background that I think we all need to kind of just take a step back and realize that, hey, wait a second, there's probably some method to the Trump administration madness in trying to deport so many people, but at the same time, trying to, lower interest rates. I think that is going to be something that's going to be studied in economics textbooks for the next 50 years once everything is over.
Do you think J-Powell cuts in September? Especially if we actually go through with all these tariffs on August 1st?
Well, I mean, he says he's going to be data dependent. And if the data does not show a material increase in inflation, then I don't think he has a choice. I think there's already insurgents within the FOMC that have already been kind of calling for cuts, Yeah. And then at the same time, if you look at a lot of the drivers of inflation, short to medium term, they tend to be related to energy, and energy prices have been stable. Like energy prices, like oil prices are sitting below $70, and it's been like that for like a good while. I mean, yeah, you had this, issue with the Iran-Israel thing for like very brief period, but for the most part, energy is stable and it's staying where it is. And as long as it stays there, I don't think we get another spike in inflation. And if we don't get a spike in inflation, I don't think Powell really has any room to not cut anymore.
Shout out to my uncle. He's there in the chat. He's been bullish silver for a long time. He gave me a book in October talking about silver. Kris, any thoughts on silver as a commodity?
I don't know much about silver as a commodity, so I couldn't tell you. I know gold is a store of wealth, of course, and then platinum is also utilized in catalyst. So, if you have platinum has a lot of industrial uses as well, outside of just being a precious metal. So, silver is coveted in certain parts of the world as well. Maybe not as much as gold, but yeah, I think people like silver.
Kris, would you buy Bitcoin or silver for the next decade if you had to hold one?
God, I'm gonna hate saying this because I know Carlos is gonna he's in the chat right now, so he's probably jumping up and down right now. But it'd probably be Bitcoin.
Okay, what about Bitcoin or gold?
Bitcoin.
Interesting. So I agree. So, but it's kind of funny. I think most people that are seeing they know a little bit, listen to a little bit of Saylor, they kind of come to the conclusion: why would I want gold when I could have digital gold that has a fixed supply? It doesn't take a genius to say I'd rather pick Bitcoin over gold.
My reasoning behind picking something like Bitcoin is that number one, you're right. The ease of transacting with Bitcoin is way easier than gold. And especially if you're thinking about cross border, then yeah, Bitcoin is way easier to move around, right? So in that regard, Bitcoin is good. The one thing that I think people have to remember when it comes to precious metals and anything of value, the only reason why something is valuable is because it's coveted by other people.
Yes.
So if me and you have this agreement that Bitcoin should be worth 500,000, then that is what the value of Bitcoin is, because that is what we agree on. Now, the thing is, if you go 20 years ago, not 20, like 10 years ago, the agreement that Bitcoin had real store of value was not there.
Yeah.
And so it was at that point just a cult, right? Bitcoin is no longer a cult. Bitcoin is a religion. And the thing is, religions don't die, they just grow. Yeah. You know? And so the Church of Sailor is growing every day. And I think more and more people are buying. And what's funny is titans of industry are buying Bitcoin too. You know,
Well, let's talk about the post you made last night, because I thought it made a lot of sense. I mean, just to reiterate again, open interest on MSTR is high on the options. You're seeing a lot of people talk about MSTY, which now has more money under management. As more people pile into that, they get more options because MSTY writes synthetic covered calls. As Bitcoin rises, so does MSTR, and all the options go in the money, forcing the market makers who sold those options to buy the shares to cover their options. And as MSTR goes up, Sailor buys more Bitcoin, raising the price of Bitcoin. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cycle that kind of feeds itself, you know. And the thing is, things like this don't typically last because too many people tend to speculate too much on the option side of things instead of the real value things. So do you remember The Big Short, where there was a scene where they tried to explain this with CDOs with Selena Gomez, right?
Yeah.
Where basically there was two people actually playing the game, right, which is actually owning Bitcoin and you know, Sailor creating a treasury for it. But then everyone else was like, yeah, let me play the options, right? Let me bet on a bet. And then another person was making a bet on another bet.
Yeah.
And so that created like this infinite cycle of leverage. And that's what's happening, where on one hand, you've got Bitcoin and you've got MSTR making the purchases. But then there's people who are like, oh, I'm going to buy options on, you know, on MicroStrategy. And another person's like, well, I can generate income by selling positions on this. So that's what's essentially happening. And I don't know how long that really lasts.
The only difference here is that the CDOs were collateralizing faulty mortgages, whereas MicroStrategy is collateralizing, one could argue, the greatest asset of all time.
Yeah, but also the most volatile asset of all time as well.
Right? But as more people buy it, it becomes less volatile, which is the good part.
That's a good point there too. That, you know what, the more people enter the religion, the more likely it is that you'll see a higher price on it. But once again, you know, this is where human psychology comes in as well, where when things start going south, there could be a lot of selling, right? And then MicroStrategy, you have to really do the math on it. MicroStrategy is taking on a lot of leverage in order to finance its Bitcoin purchases. And eventually, if Bitcoin falls low enough, that could theoretically erode MicroStrategy. And if it erodes MicroStrategy, then they have to like sell to pay down. They have to, you know, their net asset value. If they have to sell Bitcoin in order to pay back loans, then that could theoretically cause like a market panic, right? So this is not one of those things that I would say is like completely risk-free and everyone should just, you know, like pile into this and do that. But just understand that there are market dynamics that are happening in the background that are both positive and negative for Bitcoin. And one of the negatives is, and this is something that I keep hearing, is a crypto winter. And this is where I would probably, if I was Sailor, I'd be like, all right, you need to stop buying so much Bitcoin and stack some cash. Just in case you do get a move down on Bitcoin, you could theoretically buy Bitcoin at a cheaper price, or you can take out some of that debt at a cheaper price, or, you know, do something along those lines other than just, I just want to keep buying more Bitcoin. But then again,
do you think this market could even give us a crypto winter with all the institutional players that are propping this up?
That's the other thing that I think that's a very valid question that you just asked. I don't know. I really don't. I feel like more and more institutions are kind of like coming in and to some degree hedging using Bitcoin. So even if it's not like a major part of their balance sheet, they're saying, you know what, it doesn't pay me to have 1 to 2% of my net asset value, like, you know, my net worth in Bitcoin. And I think that's the recommendation that even Tom Lee had. So Tom Lee was actually advocating that people should, I mean, this was like what, 2020, where he was saying that to Becky Quick, or what's her name?
2019. No, yeah, 2017 when he said it was 5,000. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, hey, listen, you know, people should be allocating a little bit of money towards it. And I think at this point, it's proven out to be correct, right? Because you're up almost 20x on that position. So, yeah.
Someone, thank you for the $99.99 super chat. He says, MSTR holders since low hundreds, MSTR holdings are completely unencumbered and can't be taken away. I mean, maybe that's true. I mean, Kris and I are not really experts on MSTR. One thing, well, go ahead.
Well, MSTR holdings are completely unencumbered. It can't be taken away. Well, I mean, they're not. So that is a good point in that I don't think that the debt that MSTR has taken on is like secured by Bitcoin. So it's not like you can say that, hey, like, because there's a difference between, all right, imagine credit card debt and a mortgage. What's the difference between credit card debt and a mortgage on it?
Well, a mortgage is backed up by your house, and
right.
the rate tends to be significantly lower than the APR on a credit card.
Right. And the thing is, I have to read the terms of those convertible debt offerings and everything else. But in that regard, it's more like a credit card where it's saying, well, look, if this guy lives in a big house, then he's probably a good creditor.
Right.
You know? And so people are backing it, but that's with the information that, hey, they're the, you know, and technically they stand ahead of equity holders anyway. So I'm not sure that that's a 100% accurate statement either. So it may not be physically backed by MSTR, I mean, by Bitcoin, but MSTR does need to keep its creditors happy. Otherwise, creditors can force it into liquidation, right? Which case, yeah, it may not be like, you know, backed by those assets itself, but you're basically lending money to the business. You can't just say, you know what, sorry, we're not going to pay you back. That's not how debt works.
Yeah, and there's a good video, I can't find it right now, of Saylor talking about it. I think the quote was like, if Bitcoin goes to $1, he wouldn't have to pay back the debt. And he explained some financial engineering on how exactly, or he wouldn't have to sell the Bitcoin in order to pay back the convertible note holders. I got to find the video, but you know, he feels pretty confident that Bitcoin could go to $1 and he'll be fine. Obviously, if that actually happens, you know, we would have to see how the
that would be very interesting to see. I don't know. Maybe there's something there that I'm not aware of, but most debt offerings, they typically have that you pay either in dollars back, right? Or you pay in shares if it's above the strike. And if it's not above the strike that's out there for that convertible debt, then you're basically still a creditor. Like, I don't know, maybe Saylor has something in the agreements that I haven't read, so I can't speak to it. But traditionally, what I know is when you're doing debt offerings and you're buying, you know, you're lending money to an institution, you want some guarantees behind it. You know, you're not going to lend them money and just say, yeah, you know what, here's free money, go buy whatever you want to buy.
Yes, I agree. You know what? We're going to use, we'll see if Grok can help us here, and then we'll get back to it. I'm going to say there is a YouTube clip or X clip, this is Grok 4, that specifically has Michael Saylor discussing what would happen to MicroStrategy if Bitcoin went down significantly. Can you find it? Let's see. Maybe AI can help us find some of this stuff. Yeah, 167.45 on NVIDIA right here. Kris, do you have to go, or you have 5 more minutes?
I have 5 more minutes.
Okay, so I want to play this one clip on what Meta's doing from a financial engineering perspective to get all this AI talent. I thought this was really interesting, and then we'll get your reaction on the back end.
Sure.
I don't mean to interrupt here, but let's just do the math for a moment for folks that might read or watch. So you have a $1.1 billion fund. It's 4x'd, okay? Let's be generous on the math, but true, right? Half of it's deployed. So 500 million times 4x, that's to 2 billion. That's 1.5 billion profit on paper, which we can talk through. That's 300 million in gains already. We're ignoring some subtleties, right?
And he's talking about the 2 VCs that Meta recruited. He's talking about their AI fund that they raised a year ago. They're giving up this fund in order to join Meta. So he's talking about the math behind why they're doing that.
We're already 300 up, the three of us.
Correct.
The two of them, plus a few guys that probably have 2% carry. They're already up 300 million in 2 years. They're up 300 million in 2 years.
And this is why the offer is so good, because what you're getting is you had $1 billion fund, you put out $500 million, you're 4x up, 1.5 billion gain. You're not, remember, it's worth pointing out, you're not getting that money now, right? As at least to my knowledge, as a GP. It's the LPs. They're basically, and I'll give them huge credit, they're taking care of their LPs. They're saying, you can take half your money off the table, which is effectively means even if the whole thing goes to shit, you got a 2x, right? So the LPs are getting the money off the table. What they're giving up, and there is a real give up here, they're giving up as investors the right to use the other 500 million and the other billion that they were clearly going to raise in 2 weeks flat because they're those guys. So basically, what this does is it says to the offer, you should think about the offers being kind of in 3 components. Mr. Nat and Daniel, we will take care of your existing LPs in a way that will make you feel good because you're a reputable person. Secondly, you're walking away from $1.5 billion of investable capital, right? And the worth of that depends on what you think you could turn it into. Let's just say you could do another 4x. Which means 3x of gains, which means 4.5 billion, 20% profit. There's a credible argument that's 800 million of value to you, Mr. Nat and Mr. Daniel. And obviously, whatever other offer they got for that had to be better than that, right? Effectively,
so they gave up 800 million, plus they had premium carry in the fund. So let's call it an even billion. They gave up 800 million to $1 billion in theory to join Meta.
I personally think, forget and I agree, there's all sorts of, what do you want to do with your life questions. But I think not having to put that money out in today's frenzied market and instead getting if they got anything like a comparable equivalent in terms of capital return, that's a pretty damn good deal.
So we're getting some red candles across the board, but going into Meta, the point is those VCs that joined Meta basically gave up 1.5 billion in upside on the VC fund. And the reason you can say it's legit upside is because they already 4x the billion that they raised back in the summer of 2024 to join Meta, which puts it in perspective. I mean, if they were having negotiations with Zucks, they were like, hey, Zucks, we already 4x the billion. They don't get the whole 4 billion because they have LPs they have to distribute to, but nonetheless, they did that. So if you're going to pay us, you got to pay us at least 200 to 300 million for us to join you. Kris, what are your thoughts on the implications of Zuck's actually giving up that much money? And do you think he's being reckless, or do you think he's trying not to become Apple when it comes to AI?
I think the latter. You're absolutely right about that. That, this wave is going to dictate how lives change. I mean, this is like being in the internet in the year 2000, right? Everyone knows that AI is going to be really big. So the thing is, where do you want to be in that? Do you just want to be another social media company? You're running out of users, by the way. I don't know how much more Meta can really eke out on Instagram users when most of the population's already on WhatsApp, Instagram, and all this other stuff. So what is the next wave of innovation for Meta? And I think they tried the metaverse, which didn't exactly pan out as well as they had hoped. And this AI thing is definitely there. They've got the cash flow to invest. They've got the cash flow to put towards people, to put towards hardware. And that's what they're doing. They're not going to be left behind. And Zuck understands that. And the one thing you got to respect about Zuck is that he's not afraid to fail. And he's not afraid to spend money when he needs to, because ultimately, long term, it could bring about real shareholder value. And yeah, I think he's making the right move. When you look at Apple, who's a little bit more on the penny pinching side of things, where it's like, oh well, like we make 100 billion in, operating cash a year, but we're too cheap to really go hard into AI investing. You missed out.
Yeah.
And that sucks. But Apple's method is also kind of valid too, in that they're like, let's let the rest of these guys bloody themselves fighting each other, and then we'll just kind of come in the back end and take over everything, you know, and integrate it into our own ecosystem. Maybe that's the strategy that they're going for.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, guys, I don't think there's any headline to call this pullback. I don't see anything across my screens. I think it's pretty much algos and people taking some profits on a Friday. I don't see anything specific here. Okay, Grok actually helped out, Kris. Before we let you go, I think this is the video where Saylor talks about the Bitcoin potential decline. I mean, that was pretty impressive by Grok to find this clip. So shout out to Grok. It is getting a lot better.
If there is a downturn or there is a retreat, not necessarily to zero, but we've seen this be a very volatile asset. And while it's 100% gone up over the long term, and I'm not questioning that, I'm questioning whether you think if in fact there was a retracement from 98,000 to, I don't know, 70,000, what happens?
I'll make 2 points. 1 point, participants in the market are buying Bitcoin 20x faster than the supply is coming from the miners. There's a major demand supply imbalance, and that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. So I don't really expect that, but let's say it did happen. MicroStrategy's business is so good. We're generating 1 times the capital we raised. When we raised 10 billion in capital, if Bitcoin traded down $20,000 like you described, we'd still make $10 billion off the arbitrage by selling the volatility. If it trades up like I expect it will, we make 10x that. So we're either making $3 billion on that convertible bond this week in the worst case when it trades down, or we're making $30 billion on that convertible bond if it trades like the Bitcoiners believe it will.
And Michael, how should investors think about buying MicroStrategies versus buying now an ETF that might be levered, for example?
So I think he goes deeper in other clips as well, but basically he's saying they're not going to have to sell the Bitcoin. They're going to find a way to use the leverage on the Bitcoin, potentially through dilution and more at the monies to just, I guess, average down on BTC so they don't have to actually sell, which means shareholders will get hit on the stock, which I think was your point, Kris, but the actual Bitcoin won't get liquidated.
Yeah, I think that's the point that that we'd have to look at. Where, but then again, you know, if the share price drops below drops below the net asset value, then wouldn't it make more sense to instead sell Bitcoin and just buy the shares back? Because then technically you're buying more Bitcoin.
Which
right?
he has mentioned before. He's mentioned before buying back their stock. I don't know if he mentioned, I think he said he would raise money to buy back the stock, or they would sell the volatility to buy back the stock versus selling the Bitcoin itself.
Yeah, I think that's the key that he's trying to, like I said.
Exactly. You sell preferred stock and buy the shares back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But then again, remember, with preferred shares, and I hope everyone realizes, the convertible debt, the coupon on those was very small, right? I think it was like only 1 or 2%. So it wasn't a big deal. The preferred shares have a pretty large coupon associated with them, you know? Right. So Bitcoin has to appreciate at least that much per year in order to make the preferreds, you know, economical technically. Otherwise, you're basically paying money that you're not really generating. And I wonder if Bitcoin has a point where it tops out, and if it, you know, kind of stagnates for a prolonged period of time, that means that the preferreds actually are the way that you would want to invest in it also if you're trying to look for a nice yield. Can you look that up, by the way? Ask Grok, what are the current preferreds outstanding for MSTR and what are they worth?
Okay, what are the current preferreds outstanding for MSTR and what are they worth? By the way, Kris, I got to show you something. I just got a DM from Ash Free. Ash Free, if you're watching, shout out to you. And he just sent me this picture and he said, I'm at a precious metals and mining convention while watching the stream. Kris has some really good points about physical metals.
Yeah.
That's so cool, bro. That's so cool.
Well, a lot of old people, bro. A lot of boomers, they got that money and they're not into Bitcoin, but they are into precious metals. Like, you won't believe this, but my wife is a doomer. I did not know this. But she's like, yeah, like eventually I think the world's going to end and I think we need to like have a bunker and shit. And I'm like, okay.
Wait. Hold on. Your wife's a doomer? Like,
yeah, she's a doomer.
Like she believes in like the apocalypse and shit. Like
Yeah, bro. She believes that one day the world's gonna come to an end, that we should buy a bunker, and so this is where we can live out our days. And I'm like,
oh my goodness.
well, then what are we gonna transact with? You know, like Goya beans? Like, are we gonna give cans? You know, and I think she might be like secretly a gold bug, because for some reason I've never seen her bank account over $22,000. Like, I've never seen it. Like, in my life, I always ask her, because like our finances, we keep them, you know, somewhat segregated, and I'm like, how much do you have this month? She's like, oh, I've got 20,000. I'm like, there's no way. Like, you make good money, and I've been taking over a lot of expenses. Yet, why is it always 20,000? That's your reply, and I don't necessarily see a lot of Amazon boxes or anything like that. So I know she's not like going out there spending a lot of money. I have a suspicion that she's been secretly buying like gold and all this other stuff and just storing it away in like a locker or something.
And she's not telling you.
And she's not telling me. One day I came home and like she had bought like a bug out bag. Do you know what a bug out bag is?
No, what is that?
Okay, so apparently this is a thing that doomers do. She also bought like non-perishable food that like lasts like 20 years.
This shit?
Yeah.
Dude, she's really a doomer.
She is. I'm telling you, it's not a joke. I know people thinking like, oh, what are you talking about, Kris? Like, no, she's a doomer, bro. I'll show you guys. It's at home. I've got a giant bag. I've got like what do they call, like buckets of food, like literally buckets of food at home.
Did she watch a movie to think like that, or like how she like how did
I don't know where it comes from, brother. I have no idea. All I know is if you need a place to stay when the world ends, there's probably going to be like a mountain retreat in Georgia. You could come hang out. But I don't know if she'll allow you to come to either. She kind of like she told me not to tell people, which I'm messing up right now by saying it out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is what Grok did. Wow, dude. It's giving us a lot of stuff right here.
All right. So Series A, 10%. I mean, bro, the S&P 500 doesn't return 10% per year on average if you look like long term. So
that's why Saylor raised this money, right?
And what is it trading at right now? So you see that right? No, go higher. Right there. Okay. So if you see that 10% right there, STRF.
Yeah.
What's the price of STRF right now in the open market? Because
123.50.
Okay, so usually,
holy crap, it's up 40% this year.
Yeah. So one of the things is if you have interest rates that are coming down, right, and you want fixed income, right? Imagine getting 10%. Of course, you're not going to get 10% because now it's $123. I'm sure liquidation price is $100, right? Probably. Yeah, it's $100 a share.
Yeah.
So your yield when you buy this, the yield is like probably around 7-8%. But when this first came out, if you had bought it, you would have got a nice 10% yield, and it's all backed by basically Michael Saylor.
And then this is the other one, STRD.
And what's the yield on this one?
Well, the liquidation is at 100, 10%,
Right.
10%.
Really?
Yep.
Why is there such a big difference in price? It's interesting.
Well, STRD came out like I think 2 weeks ago, to be honest. Yeah, June
Really?
6th, a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's looking for long-term fixed income, this is not a bad place to hang out, because I mean, you get if you're long Bitcoin, but you need basically income, that is not a bad place to put your money. Or at least I don't think it's a bad place to put your money, because regardless of the price of Bitcoin, let's say it goes to $50-$60, those preferred shares, because they stand ahead of common equity, will give you a nice 10% yield, right?
Someone says the price difference is because the STRD payment is optional if they didn't want to pay. It's a junk bond, so it's cheaper.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Good call. I did not realize that. Wait a second. No. Hold on. You can't do preferred shares that are non-payable. It might mean that they can basically pause payments.
Yeah, it's optional basically. It's optional.
It's not optional. It just means that they can pause on it, which means that, like, let's say you buy some preferred shares, they can defer the payment for some period of time. And the thing is, like, you can't really do much about it. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't get paid. It just means that, like you're basically at the mercy of the companies. It's non-cumulative too.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Okay, so if it's cumulative, it means that the interest payments that you get, they get added. So like, let's say 1 year you bought something that's 100 and you're supposed to get 10 and they didn't pay that 10. That means that the year after that, they would owe you another 10, but that original 10 would still be due. So when the company wanted to get back into alignment, it could give you 20 and that's what you would get, right? So you would buy something at 100 and you would get 20, but you wouldn't get the 10 up front. You'd get 20 after 2 years. So that's what you call cumulative. So let's say they didn't pay for the next 5 years, they would theoretically owe you 50. Right? So that's what's cumulative. I did not know that was non-cumulative. How the hell did this guy get away from that?
Dude, whatever people want to say about MicroStrategy, they can say, but Michael Saylor, he has the ability to convince people in his vision. He's done it since he was a 20-year-old entrepreneur.
Dude, I have to read into these preferreds just from like my own like education, because I think that's an interesting thing. STRD is non-cumulative.
STRF, the other one, might be cumulative. We got to go into these and dive deeper and see.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, cumulative versus non-cumulative are big differences. So STRD divvy is non-cumulative. It's their junk bond equivalent preferred. Whatever. Like I said, I'll have to do some research on it to figure this out. I know the convertible debt, on the other hand, is definitely something that short sellers are using as a way to play the MSTR game, which is what they're doing, which is they give MSTR convertible debt. Saylor goes out there and buys Bitcoin. So essentially what Saylor is doing is shorting. Wait, honestly, these over collateralized preferreds would be part of my retirement plan. Yeah, that's good, man. Because it is over collateralized by a lot if you think about like the total value of Bitcoin. Right. So if someone is looking for retirement, that would be as long as you make sure it's cumulative, that would make a lot more sense. And also like make sure that there's some good covenants in there as well that protect you as fixed as bond holders or preferred holders. The one thing that people really need to do is eventually, if you do want to get into fixed income, learn about covenants and how they work and how they protect you as a credit investor. Because credit investing, if inflation starts to come down and things move south, you kind of want to diversify away from having a pure equity portfolio. So
I think I'll try to get some people, guys, to do a deep dive on MSTR and try to go a lot more into the thesis. Just Bitcoin,
I think
Bitcoin's going to be around. MSTR is going to be around.
I think we need to do more research in ETH, brother. I'll tell you, ETH looks way more interesting to me only because ETH has a income component to it. And so the real, like, there is a certain mechanism that I know that I've been reading about with ETH where there's a dividend portion and then there's a buyback portion, right? So whenever you think about ETH, and they have this thing called like burn, right? Like, I'll send you this video that I found. It was actually a pretty good explanation. So gas fees are like a dividend that you get for owning Ethereum. And then the burning of Ethereum that happens along those transactions, because some parts of it get burned off, that's like a share buyback.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like buying into a business that's one, issuing dividends and also at the same time buying back shares. And usually those are really good businesses because for people looking for total value, they're going to do well on it. And I think that's what Tom Lee is seeing right now and saying, hey, if we end up doing a treasury, if the utilization of ETH grows, and especially with the stablecoin legislation going through, it's more than likely that a lot of these things are going to be built on Ethereum's blockchain. If Ethereum blockchain goes bigger and bigger, so you might see that happen where you're getting this dividend in the form of additional ETH, but then at the same time, ETH is getting burned in the background, so the growth of ETH is not happening. And like I said, there's probably some math there that I wish I had a little bit more understanding of. And if you have someone in the chat, please, if you guys have someone who understands ETH,
message me. We'll do a deep dive.
Explain it to us, because I really do want to take a position in some ETH long term, but I just don't know on what part makes sense. Do I buy the asset itself, which is the Ethereum, or do I buy a treasury company that can leverage it, or something else? You know,
How do you feel about BMNR tanking as much as it has? Tom Lee was a little uncomfortable yesterday. I mean, he's getting some pushback. How do you feel about this whole thesis here?
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like you always based a lot of the investing things on net asset value, and sometimes net asset value gets way ahead of what's normal, and eventually the market will correct you on that. If the underlying price of your assets are X, and your pricing is like 3 times that, then it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that it's probably overvalued.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only thing. And some of it was, oh, Tom Lee's involved, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's why a lot of people are on SBET.
Yes.
How's SBET doing today?
I think it's up like 10%, 14. Wow.
Yeah. Now, SBET is a little bit more interesting because they're directly tied to a huge backing of Ethereum, like the asset itself. So as the asset goes up in value, this goes up. But the question is Ethereum up 14%?
No. Well,
So
over the past week, I think it's up like 17%. Ethereum the past week is 17%. Yeah.
Okay, so do this. What is the net asset value of SBET? What's the NAV of SBET?
Well, so their market cap is 1.3 billion.
Mm-hmm.
They bought 10,000 ETH today.
Okay.
But I don't know how many total ETH they have.
Question
Today
is, how did they buy it?
Well, they diluted.
Oh, they did an equity offering?
They did that back in 2 weeks ago. That's when they went down from 120 to, they diluted 70 million shares from 122. That's when they fell to 9. I think that's when they raised the money, if I'm not wrong.
So they raised money at like 172, and then they bought Ethereum when they were trading at 9?
So I believe they raised money at 120. I don't know exactly if they got 120 as the price on all the shares they offered. And they bought Ethereum today at, I think, what, 2,900, 2,950 or something? People are saying SBET is 2x NAV. Well, that is way better than Tom Lee's thing, which is like 12x NAV.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, usually you're better off just buying the asset itself. But then again, they could also lever the hell up. And so leverage is the other thing too. Like, it's almost like these guys are selling their own stock to buy more of the underlying asset. And
that's exactly what Thaler did, right?
Well, theoretically, what you're doing is you're diluting existing shareholders to buy an underlying asset that's appreciating, and that's your arbitrage.
Yes, exactly. That's
I don't know how long that can work, man.
I mean, it's worked out pretty well for Saylor, but I don't know. The underlying asset has to go up. That's what makes this thing work.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's why I think the Chanos has been doing, right? Chanos has been basically shorting. He's doing the same thing Saylor's doing, by the way. So what?
But it's not working for him because strategy keeps going up.
Yeah, but Bitcoin's going up too.
Yeah, but I mean, at that point, unless he has way more, it's a wash at that point, right? If he's losing on the short, but
if the NAV is going higher, then he would be losing money on it. So Saylor, what Chanos has been doing is he's been selling MSTR short and buying Bitcoin with it. So BlackRock ETA just saw largest single day inflow ever.
BlackRock got the IBIT ETF for Bitcoin has been doing well, but the Ethereum one has been kind of crappy. Yesterday got almost $500 million in inflows.
Jesus Christ. All right. Well,
that's people that are getting excited about it. But
like I said, we need to do more research on ETH, man. I said this a month ago. I'm gonna say it again today. There could be some way that we could find the next micro strategy of ETH. And just like our friend who you had lunch with, Adam, by the way, this is the part that kills me. We had this discussion with Vitaly and Carlos on Finance Junkies, and we said, they were like, oh, Bitcoin. And I said, why would you just buy MicroStrategy and buy options on MicroStrategy? And you know who actually did? Adam.
Adam was watching that freaking podcast.
Yeah.
And
And
he
he's like, you
took
know
your
what?
advice.
I didn't, it wasn't advice. I was just being like, I was trying to throw out an idea. I was like, wait a second. If you think about it, the options chain on MicroStrategy is really cheap if the long-term potential for Bitcoin is so much. And I guess something came over at him, but he went hard, and thank God he did, because it worked out well for him.
Dude, he
So
loaded up, like loaded up yesterday. We were looking at each other's portfolios, and he's done very well, bro. He's very well. He's
we know a lot of people with private jet money now. That's for sure. You know, it's funny because 2022, when we all started talking, like we weren't nearly where we are as we are today. I think all of us we had our own come ups, you know, and it's interesting where we all kind of landed and where we're going today. So.
Yeah, even I've known Adam since 2022, and he's done well for himself. He's been in real estate for 20 years, so it's never like he was broke.
No, yeah,
really young. But now he's like, you know, you're getting to that point in life where you can actually pay for some stuff, enjoy some stuff, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a different stratosphere in terms of like what you can do with your gains, right? There's a certain level, like let's just say we're not staying at La Quinta anymore. We could go to we could do a little bit more. We could do a little bit more than that. So.
Are you at a nice little resort right now? Nice hotel there?
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be fancy, but I don't feel it.
Your standards are too high now at this point.
No, it's not that. It's just, I guess Mexico kind of spoiled me a little bit. The resort that I stayed at in Mexico, and you know what, everyone on stream, thank God for Tevis. All right, Tevis is the man. We get there, we randomly booked this place on stream, and me and Tevis got to our hotel, the first one. It's called the Rio Cancun. Brother, it was horrible. Like me and Tevis looked at each other and be like, man, we are not gonna have a good time. And Tevis like, screw this shit. Tevis spoke to somebody and got us upgrades to like their higher end version, which is the Rio Palace at Kukulkan. It's a little bit further down the road. I was floored. He somehow got us for $170 upgraded to this other hotel, which was like 100 times better than the one we were staying at for literally $170. So now I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So yeah.
There you go. I love it. All right. We will look more into Ethereum. If you are an expert on this or you know a lot about it, DM me on Twitter, and we'll have Kris on a deep dive next week, and we'll try to understand Ethereum and Ethereum treasuries. We'll try to do those two together and go.
Yeah. And also, if you have like an idea of smart contracts and tokenization, that would be helpful as well. Because I think it's not only the asset class that I want to understand, but it's also the use cases and how they can be monetized in the long run. That I think would be very helpful.
Yeah. Kris, thank you. Kris's Twitter in the chat. Enjoy the weekend.
Have a good one, man. Take care.
Yeah, we'll talk next week. Bye-bye. Folks, we got a new clip from Jensen this morning speaking. Here we go.
AI is the great equalizer. And what I mean by that is, in fact, because we use AI for research, and my primary use case for AI is doing research and being my tutor. It's helping me become better and better informed in a lot of different fields that I otherwise, are relatively new at. And so don't underestimate the incredible capability of a young person connected to AI and using AI. They are incredibly good. So it's a booster, actually, and it puts pressure on, frankly, people like myself who have dedicated decades in doing a particular craft, because young people, with the assistance of AI, all of a sudden become incredibly good at it. Every programmer just became better because they have the benefit of AI. Every researcher just became better because they have access to AI to help them do additional research. Every doctor just became better because they have the ability for AI to help them do diagnosis. It could be a doctor in a small town. It could be a doctor in a developing country. They all have now access to the world's best AI to be better doctors. It's actually a great equalizer.
All right, there you go. So you got Jensen on the morning shows making the argument to tell people that AI is here. Not a bad day for the markets, folks. We're going to end it out here, but NVIDIA trying to get back to 167, almost hit 168. Robinhood, I would really love to get that triple-digit close. Even if it doesn't happen, it's okay. But at this point, this stock wants to be triple digits. We've not gone below 90 since the crypto event. It's held very strong at these levels. I think it wants to hold on, and hopefully we get a triple-digit close today. Tesla, 307, kind of just chilling out. It was at 288 on Friday or on Monday, so not too bad since then. Palantir right here, 142, did touch 144 this morning. S&P 623, still down about 1/3% on the day. SoFi, maybe 22 by the end of the day, 21.86, but holding above 21, $21 close would be awesome. Grab right here, just above 5. Amazon, 224. Meta is down a bit on the day, 716. And Apple, which a lot of controversy was started yesterday over a couple of firms on the street calling for Tim Cook to be fired, which I think is a bit ridiculous, but I understand they're frustrated on the lack of product vision for Apple. That stock right there is down about 1%. Apple did say yesterday, or Bloomberg reported, they have a ton of new lineups coming out in 2026, along with AI Siri and their like Vision Pro 2, like a smaller glasses version of it that's easier for people to wear. So next year might be the main year for Apple. All right, cool. That is it for me today. BM&R as well, taking a little bit of a hit right here, down about 4%. SBET is going the opposite. Again, if you're into Ethereum or these treasuries, please DM me on Twitter. We'll set up a deep dive and try to understand the logic behind these. SBET right here up 19.4% of the day. Tesla right here, 307. NVIDIA, 166.7. Hoodie, 100.90. Palantir, 142.48. And then the S&P is 623.44. Word of the day is there's no way I can get this wrong. There's no way. There's no way I can get this wrong. GAD. It's God or something, or like the A is, it's GAD. It has to be GAD. There's no way. It's GAD. I think it's GAD. GAD. Okay, thank goodness. Here we go. GAD. To move restlessly or aimlessly from one place to another. They accused the minister of gadding around with celebrities while urgent issues piled up in his community. I watched the cat gad across the neighborhood, wandering after leaves, bugs, and shadows. Gad. I've never heard of this word before, but there you go. Gad. XRP, she's running too. Oh, Steve's not going to, he's not going to let me live this down today. If he joins on the market close, which I'm not sure he will, but I think he should be. If XRP is anywhere near $3, we're going to be talking about some XRP. We're going to be talking about some XRP. All right, folks. I think that's it. I think that is it. We'll be back on the market close. We'll keep going from there. Yeah, we got through the second week of Q2. We'll end it out today. Hopefully we get some closes on these names, but overall, not too bad for this week. I do think we're doing Palantir Weekly tonight. We missed it for the past 2 weeks because people were traveling. Arnie will not be there because he's traveling, but everyone else should be there. At least me and Amir will be. So we should have a normal Palantir Weekly tonight, and we'll recap everything we got going on in Palantir. All right, cool. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all. We will be back for the market close. Hopefully, Steve will be on. Florida AG was hoping to get Hood shares cheap. Yes, that is correct. And we'll be back later tonight, hopefully for Palantir Weekly as well. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.